Chapter 13:11. Yamacho. Yamacho. Little Yuer has sent a letter. Zhengzhou's Chui family is going to revolt. Luoyang will be in danger. When it was close to noon, Meng Wenhao arrived at Yunshan's first courtyard with the translated message in his hand. He rushed to Li Zishuan in the courtyard and hurriedly shouted. He didn't notice that other than Li Zishuan, Li Gang was also in the courtyard. What? You said the Chui family is going to rebel against the imperial court? How is that possible? Li Zishuan was stunned. Just as he was about to speak, Li Gang stood up and said in shock. Oh. Greetings, Mr. Li. Meng Wenhao finally noticed Li Gang in the courtyard and quickly went forward to greet him. Li Gang waved his hand and asked with a serious face, Wenhao, is what you said just now true? Meng Wenhao quickly handed the message in his hand to Li Gang and said, Mr. Li, it is absolutely true. This is the message sent by Li Yu in Zhengzhou through the telegraph. Please take a look at it with Yamacho. Li Gang took the message and read it seriously. Li Zishuan was already standing behind Li Gang and also read it. In the second month of the second year of Xinguan, Guanqing County was attacked by bandit. Wei Zwiqing's whereabouts are unknown. In the third month of the second year of Xinguan, Zhengzhou Daily appeared in Zhengzhou. The content criticized the imperial court and His Majesty. The Chui family's intention to rebel is clear as day. Last night, Yi Fashion risked his life to sneak into the provincial governor's mansion and found out that the provincial governor of Zhengzhou had colluded with Chui Junchuo. Furthermore, the Chui family has joined forces with the Jing family of Xingyang and the Chui family of Bowling to launch a rebellion the day after tomorrow. They are going to attack Luoyang directly. The Chui family wants to take down Luoyang and rule the world with the imperial court. The situation is urgent. Please make a decision and send an army to eliminate the rebels. The message wasn't long, only about 300 words in total. It could be seen that the message had been condensed before it was sent out. However, the amount of information contained in the message was far more than 300 words. Zhengzhou was about to undergo a great change. Honan province is going to change. If this matter wasn't handled properly, the great Tang would undergo a major change. How would the Chui family dare? This is treason and heresy, destroying the integrity of my court. Yamacho, we must report this to His Majesty as soon as possible. After Li Gang finished reading, his face was full of anger. If it wasn't for the urgency of time, he would have scolded these traitors. Li Zishuan took the report from Li Gang, then cupped his hands and said, Teacher Wenji is right. I will enter the palace now. Non-base fast. Prepare the horses. Yes, Marquis. After a while, Li Zishuan and Pang Feiji rode down the Cloud Mountain and headed straight for Chang'an City. In the Imperial Palace, the morning court session had just ended. Li Er was resting in the Suite Du Hall. After all, the morning court session every day was extremely exhausting for an emperor like him. Your Majesty, the Marquis of Yong, is requesting an audience outside the hall, saying that it's an extremely urgent matter. At this moment, an attendant came in from outside the hall and reported with a bow. An extremely urgent matter? Li Er, who was leaning on the couch, narrowed his eyes and said, Send it in quickly. Yes. The chamberlain retreated, and not long after, Li Zishuan walked in. Without waiting for him to bow, Li Er asked, Speak. What exactly is so urgent that you're willing to leave the Cloud Mountain? Li Zishuan took out the report, raised it above his head and said, Your Majesty, there is an urgent report from Zhengzhou. The Chui family wants to oppose them. What? As soon as the last 3 words were spoken, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly stagnated. Even Zhao Song, who was standing below Li Er, could not help but reveal a trace of shock in his eyes. After being stunned for a moment, Zhao Song hurriedly came down, took the report from Li Zishuan, and handed it to Li Er. After Li Er scanned the contents of the report with a serious expression, he ordered, Quickly summon Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui Li Jing, Qing Jijie, Qin Xiong, Yuqi Jingda, Niu Jinda, and Duan Jishuan for a meeting. Zhao Song's expression turned serious as he bowed and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Speaking of which, the officials were probably still on their way home after court. If he wanted to summon them back, he would probably have to send someone to look for them on the road. Marquis of Yong'an, where did this report come from? How many days has it been since the time in this report? After Zhao Song left, Li Er stood up from the dragon couch and looked at Li Zishuan and asked. This was the question he was most concerned about. After all, the report said that the Cui family would start an uprising the day after tomorrow, but who knew if the day after tomorrow had already passed? This was the problem of the timeliness of information that the ancient people often encountered. Your Majesty, this report was just sent from Zhengzhou through the telegraph. It was less than 2 hours ago, and the Cui family's uprising date is the day after tomorrow. Li Zishuan bowed and said. Li Er raised his eyebrows. After thinking for a while, he understood and said, Previously, when your cousin Yi Fashion and Li Yu went to Zhengzhou, they must have brought a telegraph machine with them, right? Back when Yi Fashion and Li Yu went south to Zhengzhou, Li Er had warned Li Zishuan not to act rashly in Zhengzhou and ruin his plans. Now that Li Zishuan mentioned the origin of this report, he could roughly guess the cause and effect. Your Majesty is wise. I was worried that they would meet with an accident in Hunan, so I gave them a telegraph machine. Li Zishuan replied. Li Er nodded. Seeing that Li Zishuan was still frowning and looking worried, he couldn't help but say, this time, the report that Li Yu and Yi Fashion sent back was considered timely. The imperial court had enough time to react and make corresponding arrangements. The safety of Minister Wei and the rest should not be a concern. Besides, I already knew about the chaos in Zhengzhou last month. How could I not have made any preparations? Li Zishuan's eyes lit up. Just as he was about to ask, he suddenly heard footsteps outside the hall. It was Zhao Song. Your Majesty, Duke Zhao, Prime Minister Fang, and the rest are all waiting outside the hall. Li Er nodded and said, Let them in quickly. After a while, Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, and the rest all came in. After a round of greetings, Zhang Sun Wuji glanced at Li Zishuan in the hall, then looked at Li Er and asked, May I know why Your Majesty has summoned us here? Li Er looked at the officials in the hall and said in a deep voice, Last month, the Cui family connived with the bandits and attacked the magistrate's office. They wanted to use this opportunity to assassinate Wei Zheng. After that, they arbitrarily published the Zhengzhou Daily to attack me and the imperial court. They wanted to use this to bewitch the people and plot a rebellion. Also, I have received news that Cui Junchuo has already joined forces with Zhengzhou Provincial Governor Pan Jinhua, Xinjiang's Jing family, and Boling's Cui family. They will gather the people's opinions and start a rebellion the day after tomorrow. Their first target is Luoyang. My beloved officials, what do you think I should do? Zhang Sun Wuji and the rest were instantly shocked. They were summoned right after the court. Before they came, they had thought of thousands of possibilities, but they didn't expect such a big thing to happen. Your Majesty, give me 20,000 men and horses. I will go to Zhengzhou and destroy these rebels. While everyone was still in shock, Cheng Yaojin had already jumped out excitedly and shouted anxiously. He was indeed excited. Speaking of which, the world had been peaceful for so long. This old fellow had long been bored to death at home. Now that there was finally a war to fight, how could he not be excited? Your Majesty, as long as you give me 10,000 troops, I will be able to exterminate the rebels. Yuqi Jingda reacted and hurriedly said, Bah! Yuqi old hey, what do you mean? Cheng Yaojin immediately lost it. He was the one who said it first, but wasn't Yuqi Jingda trying to cut him off? What do you mean, what do I mean? I want to share His Majesty's worries. What does it have to do with you, lunatic Cheng? Yuqi Jingda retorted without a trace of fear. You Yuqi old hey, Do you want to fight again? Then let's fight. Silence. These two people were enemies in the previous life. They fought as soon as they met. Li Er's face turned darker and darker as he watched. Finally, he couldn't hold it in and shouted. As expected, Cheng Yaojin and Yuchi Jingde immediately quieted down. In the court, the military situation is extremely urgent. As important officials of the court, you two are actually quarreling. Where is the propriety? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the younger generation? Li Er criticized in annoyance. Then, he looked at Li Jing and said, Apothecary, what do you think of the Chui family's rebellion? In the end, there were many people in the court who were suitable to be generals. However, there was only one person who was most suitable to be the commander of an army, and that was Li Jing. In terms of foresight, military strategy, and strategy, almost no one could compare to him. Li Jing cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I think that the most important thing right now is to send people 800 li to inform Luoyang's magistrate to strengthen the city's defense. Luoyang has Hanjiatsang, and there is enough food for 500,000 soldiers to eat for a year. We must not let Luoyang fall into the hands of the rebels. Luoyang's Hanjiatsang was the world's largest granary. At its peak, the amount of food stored was close to 6 million dan. This was also the main reason why Cui Junchuo wanted to take down Luoyang as soon as possible. In addition, I think that Your Majesty should issue an edict to mobilize the available provincial troops around Zhengzhou to first resist the rebel army. Then, from Chang'an, we will mobilize the army to Hunan province. Zhengzhou is only 400 li away from Chang'an. If we rush, we can reach it in 5 days. In other words, as long as Luoyang's guards and the other provincial troops can delay it for 3 to 4 days, Luoyang will not fall into the hands of the enemy. Only then can the court deal with the rebel army with the least loss. In addition, before the army sets off, we have to figure out the number of rebels so that we can deal with them. Qinghe Chui clan, Xingyang Zhengzhou clan, and Boling Chui clan are all large clans that have existed for thousands of years. They have tens of thousands of disciples and countless scholars, officials, and generals that rely on them. This time, Cui Junchuo used Zhengzhou daily to criticize Your Majesty and incite the people to join the rebel army. Therefore, according to my estimation, the number of rebels is definitely not less than 200,000. No matter who Your Majesty sends to quell the rebellion, I hope that he will not underestimate the enemy. Li Jing was indeed Li Jing. Once he said this, the officials in the hall stopped arguing. Li Er nodded and said, Zhao Song, immediately issue an edict. Order Luozhou's governor Chu Tudong to strengthen the city's defenses. Prepare rolling stones, crossbows, and other defensive tools in advance. We must defend the city. Order Hunan Province's Anfu ambassador Ren Kan to immediately mobilize the troops of Qinzhou, Shuzhou, Songzhou, Chaozhou, Haozhou, Qizhou, Qingzhou, Bianzhou, and Suzhou to quell the rebellion in Zhengzhou. Also, order Wang Yu, who is hiding in Dengzhou, to immediately lead the army to Zhengzhou. Li Er's arrangement at the beginning was still considered normal, but the last sentence was earth-shattering. Chapter 13:12. On the 13th day of the 6th month of the 9th year of Wuda, Li Shimin abolished the Xingtai system and set up a governor's office in Luozhou, Luoyang. In the first year of Xinguan, Li Shimin appointed Chu Tudong as the governor of Luozhou. In the same year, Li Er divided the world into 10 daos. Luoyang and Zhengzhou both belonged to Hunan daos. At that time, the imperial court did not set up fixed officials and offices in each dao. They only temporarily sent officials and ambassadors to patrol. At first, they were called pacifiers. It was not until the second year of Ruizong Jingyun that the imperial court set up jidushi in each dao. The Enlushan rebellion, at the end of the Tang Dynasty, was caused by the military power of the jidushi. Speaking of the current pacifier of Hunan daos, Ren Kan, His brother Rengui was also the pacifier of Hunan Daos in the first year of Wuda. Lu Rengui was indebted to him. At that time, Rengui was drafting memorials to discuss state affairs. Lu Rengui saw the draft and helped him edit a few lines. Rengui was amazed by his talent and learning, and as a result, she appointed him as the Shi province army commander. In the Swede Du Hall, Zhao Song received the order and left. He had to draft the imperial edict and send it out. After all, time waits for no one. At the same time, Li Er's last sentence attracted the attention of everyone. Fang Xuanling's eyes flashed, and he cupped his hands and asked, "Your Majesty, Provincial Governor Wang should be in Suizhou. Why is he in Dengzhou?" According to the Tang Dynasty's laws, the governors of each province should be in charge of their own affairs. They were not allowed to leave the province unless the emperor ordered them to do so. Now that Wang Yu suddenly appeared in Dengzhou, and from what Li Er said, Wang Yu even brought an army with him. Li Zishuan's heart stirred, and he also looked towards Li Er. Li Er smiled faintly and said, "A month ago, I received news that there were bandits in Zhengzhou causing trouble. I thought that Wei Zheng would face the retaliation of the local officials and the fierce retaliation of the Cui family. To prevent some people from acting out of desperation, I ordered Ren Kan to choose 200 elites to sneak into Guangxing County to protect Wei Zheng in the dark. I also ordered Sui Province's governor Wang Yu to lead 20,000 troops to hide in Dengzhou and be ready to assist Wei Zheng. Now, it seems that some people will always take risks and commit treacherous acts. Therefore, Wang Yu's troops can also be put to use." When the officials heard this, they couldn't help but exclaim, "Your Majesty is wise." Li Zishuan, on the other hand, secretly curled his lip. He thought to himself that old Li was indeed a sly old fox. No wonder he wasn't worried at all. It turned out that he had already prepared a backup plan. Qin Xiong cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, Governor Wang's 20,000 troops will not be able to stop the Cui family's rebel army. Even if Ren Kan gathers 10 states troops, he will not be their match. The imperial court must send elites to Zhengzhou." Li Er nodded and said, "What Xu Bao said is also what I was thinking. In that case, who do you think I should send to Zhengzhou to quell the rebellion?" Cheng Yaojin was immediately energized. He stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, this old subject requests permission to lead the right guard to Zhengzhou. Your Majesty, this old subject requests battle. I am willing to lead the right Marshal Marquis to Zhengzhou. Your Majesty, this old subject is willing to lead Zhou Xiaowei to Zhengzhou." Yuqi Jingda and Niu Jinda did not want to be left behind. They also stepped forward and asked for battle. Li Zishuan was not interested in war. However, when he saw this scene, he could not help but feel his blood boil. He was fascinated. This was the prosperous Tang Dynasty. This was the prosperous Tang Dynasty that countless people of the Yan Huang Dynasty were proud of. In the face of war, no one was afraid. Everyone was filled with fighting spirit. The Yellow Sand wore golden armor after 100 battles. They would not return until they had conquered Lulan. This was the belief that every Tang Dynasty general had. They would press forward without stopping until they reached their goal. What a great era this was! Your Majesty, this subject requests battle too. This subject is willing to lead the black armored army to Zhengzhou. Although Chang'an is a few hundred miles away from Zhengzhou, the black armored army can reach it in 2 days. As long as the rebel army dares to leave the city, this subject will lead the black armored army to wipe them all out. At this moment, a middle-aged general in his 30s saluted Li Er. This was Duan Zhishuan. Among the people that Li Zishuan had asked Zhao Song to summon, only Duan Zhishuan was someone that Li Zishuan had never seen before. Thus, when this person appeared, Li Zishuan guessed his identity. "Good." Seeing the emotions of the officials below, Li Er shouted, "Everyone, listen to the decree." The faces of the officials in the hall turned serious as they saluted. "This subject awaits the decree." Li Er said, Cui Junchuo from the Cui family of Qinghe ignored the grace of the emperor and did not repent. She actually assassinated an important official of the imperial court, bewitched the people, and disrespected the emperor. I hereby order Li Jing to be the general in charge of the military of Hunan province. He will lead the left, middle, and right armies into Zhengzhou to wipe out the rebellion. Qin Xiong will be the deputy general in charge of the military. He will lead 20,000 troops from the middle army to Zhengzhou through Luoyang. Qing Jijie will lead 20,000 troops from the right army to surround Zhengzhou and prevent the rebels from escaping to other provinces. Niu Jinda will lead 20,000 troops from the left army from Shuzhou to prevent the rebel army from attacking Luoyang. At that time, if the rebel army has already left Zhengzhou or Luoyang has already fallen, the three armies will combine their forces to wipe out the rebel army. Duan Jishuan, I order you to lead 3,000 black armored troops to Zhengzhou. If you meet enemies in the wilderness, go all out to wipe them out. For this rebellion, all of you must exterminate the rebels. Since the Cui clan of Bowling and the Zheng clan of Xingyang are accomplices and have committed such treacherous acts, they must be exterminated without leaving a single one alive. When the emperor was angry, millions of corpses would fall, and blood would flow for 1,000 miles. When these cold words came out of Li Er's mouth, it meant that many people would die in the following period of time. This subject obeys the decree. Li Jing, Qin Xiong, Qing Yaojin, Niu Jinda, and Duan Jishuan stepped forward and cupped their fists solemnly. The hearts of the other officials turned cold. Li Er actually sent out the black armored troops to wipe out the rebellion. This was the most elite heavy cavalry in the world. Even the wolf cavalry of the Turks had to flee when they saw them. 3,000 black armored troops was not a small number. When Li Shimin defeated Wang Shichong at Hulao Pass, he had only used 1,000 of the black armored troop. In the end, he had captured and beheaded more than 6,000 people. Later on, Wang Shichong was unwilling to admit defeat and sent 100,000 men. Li Shimin had used 3,500 black armored troops to lead the charge and ultimately defeated these people. From this, one could see the strength of this heavy cavalry force. Of course, one could also see that Old Li was determined to kill the Cui family of Qinghe, the Zheng family of Xingyang, and the Cui family of Bowling. Time is of the essence. My beloved subjects, gather the troops. Tomorrow morning, the three armies will set out for Zhengzhou. Li Er nodded. There was a saying that a cannon shot was worth 10,000 taels of gold. Although there were no cannons in this era, fighting wars was still rather expensive. However, the great Tang's treasury was filled with grain and fodder, so Li Er had the confidence to start this rebellion. Yes. The officials cupped their fists and left. Marquis Yong, and you stay. Li Zishuan also wanted to take the opportunity to slip away, but Li Er's words forced him to face this cruel reality. Chapter 13:13. Marquis Yong, we will have official Fang, official Du, and the others write a few articles and send them to the editorial department of the Great Tang Daily. We will use this opportunity to let the people of the world see the true colors of the Cui clan and Zheng clan. They were the ones who were unjust, so they can't blame us for being ruthless. In the Sweet Du Hall, after Zhang Sunwuji, Fang Xianling, and Cheng Yaojin left, Li Er looked at Li Zishuan and instructed. Li Zishuan was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Old Li to know how to make use of public opinion. This time, the Cui family used public opinion to attack Li Er to incite the people to rebel against the imperial court. Now, Old Li wanted to use the same method to gain the people's trust and support. Only a ruler who valued the people's trust would be a successful ruler. Yes, Your Majesty. In the next few days, the Tang Daily will cooperate with the imperial court to announce the Cui family's rebellion to the world. As the saying goes, those who are righteous get more support while those who are unrighteous get little support. Cui Junchao has no regard for the emperor's grace and is not a subject. he will definitely be despised by the people. I will also list out all the good deeds and benevolence your Majesty has done to the people since you took over the throne. People's hearts are made of flesh. I don't believe that the people can't differentiate between good and bad. Li Zishuan cupped his hands and replied, Yes. Li Er nodded and said, The Cui and Jing family have thousands of scholars in their hands. Actually, I am not afraid of how many soldiers they have. I am only afraid that they will use these scholars to bewitch the people and attack the imperial court. After all, the people are innocent. Li Zishuan smiled and said, Your Majesty is so considerate of the people. It is the blessing of the people. Li Er smiled and didn't deny it. After a while, he said, I have an idea. Listen to it and see if it is feasible. Li Zishuan's expression turned solemn as he listened attentively. Li Er paused for a moment before continuing. Since ancient times, when a general was away from the capital, he would not obey military orders. The reason was that the battlefield was quite far from the capital, and the situation on the battlefield was constantly changing. Therefore, the previous emperors would not interfere with the generals away from the capital and give orders. But this time, when Liu used a telegraph to send information to Chang and from Zhengzhou, I had an idea. That is it possible for me to understand the situation on the battlefield immediately through the telegraph? Then, if I or any other officials in the imperial court have any good ideas about military formations, I can also send them to the front line through the telegraph at the very first moment. What do you think? Li Zishuan was shocked. He thought to himself that old Li's thinking was quite advanced. He even knew how to engage in information warfare. Your Majesty, our telegraph is not mature yet. This kind of ultra-long distance communication is not stable. This time, the reason why little Yuer was able to send the information from Zhengzhou to Chang was because she sent the telegram from a Buddhist pagoda that was more than 100 feet high. When the army goes out, how can there be such a high altitude everywhere? In addition, the power supply of the telegraph is also a problem. Therefore, I think that it is still too early for Your Majesty to use the telegraph to command the battle formation this time. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Li Er couldn't help but frown. He asked doubtfully, What does the telegram sent by the telegraph have to do with the height of the terrain? Li Zishuan cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, if I may be so bold as to ask you, if this person stood on a high mountain and shouted to the foot of the mountain, would his voice travel far? Or if he stood on the street and shouted, would his voice travel far? Li Er thought for a moment and replied, Of course, if he stood on a mountain and shouted, his voice would travel far. Li Zishuan smiled and said, That's right. Your Majesty, in fact, the telegram sent by the telegraph is just like shouting. If you stand high and the position is spacious, it will naturally travel far. There are many houses in the city, which will block the telegram sent by the telegraph, so it won't travel far. He definitely couldn't tell Li Er about the transmission loss of electromagnetic wave. Otherwise, if he wanted to explain it clearly, he would have to talk for a long time. After thinking about it, Li Zishuan could only give an example to explain to Li Er. I see. Li Er nodded thoughtfully. Then, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said, I still have a plan. This time, we can let the pharmacist bring 2 celestial lamps. On one hand, it can be used to scout the enemy from the sky. On the other hand, we can use the celestial lamps to send information to Chang and from the sky. What do you think? Li Zishuan didn't object this time. In fact, he had thought of using the celestial lamps to carry the telegraph when he came here. The reason why he didn't tell Li Er at the first moment was because he was worried that this kind of technology that was ahead of its time would cause uncontrollable variables in the future if it was used on the battlefield too early before it matured. The Tang Dynasty's biggest enemy was still the Turks. Li Zishuan felt that using the celestial lamps and the telegraph to deal with the Zhengzhou rebels was a little overkill. Your Majesty's wisdom is as vast as the sea. This subject admires you. This subject feels that this method is feasible, as long as you pay attention to the power supply of the telegraph. Li Zishuan cupped his hands and said. Li Er's face finally revealed a victorious smile. At this time, he looked at Li Zishuan meaningfully and asked, "You must be wondering why I am so insistent on using the telegraph in this rebellion, right?" Li Zishuan was silent. Seeing this, Li Er continued, 5 families and 7 hopes. Just 3 families working together to deal with me? What a joke. I don't put Chui Junchuo in my eyes. However, using the blood of the Chui family and the Jing family to sharpen the blades of my army seems to be a good choice. I won't hide it from you, I long for war. In the 9th year of Wuda, the Turks attacked the city and I was forced to sign the treaty. This is the greatest shame of my life. At the latest next year, I will send troops to the Turks and fight it out with Xieli. I can't wait to go to the battlefield and kill them with my own hands. However, as the emperor of the Tang Dynasty, how can I casually go to the battlefield? And the telegraph that you, Marquis Yong-un, built just happens to solve this worry of mine. Although I can't go to the battlefield, I can control the situation through the telegraph. And now, the Chui family's rebellion can be used to train my troops. Your telegraph must be used this time. Even if there are problems along the way, I don't care. Li Zishuan was silent. Although Li Er was just over 30 years old, he had been on the battlefield for more than 10 years. He was a real emperor on horseback. Such a strong Li Er was attacked by the Turks back then. How could he not be angry? However, Li Er was now the emperor of a country. Even if he wanted to take revenge, he couldn't personally go to the battlefield. For a former world hero, this was also a kind of grievance and suffering. This subject obeys your majesty. Currently, this subject has a total of 3 telegraph machines. One of them was given to Li Yu. Since your majesty wants to arrange it this way, then when the army sets out tomorrow, this subject will send a student from the academy who knows how to use the telegraph to bring 1 telegraph machine and 2 celestial lamps with the army. This subject will send the last telegraph machine to the palace. At that time, your majesty can let His Highness, Prince of Wei, teach the people in the palace how to use the telegraph machine. Since Li Er had put it this way, Li Zishuan naturally had no reason to refuse. After thinking for a moment, he cupped his hands and said. Li Er was finally satisfied and said, "So kind. Haha, after this rebellion is quelled, I will remember your merit. This subject does not ask for a reward. If there is merit, it should be the contribution of the student from the academy who went to Zhengzhou." In the afternoon, Chang'an City suddenly became busy. In the Ministry of War and the Ministry of Revenue, officials went in and out, all of them in a hurry. They were all busy. In the city, teams of soldiers were constantly escorting carts of grain and fodder out of the city. Since ancient times, grain and fodder had always been the first to move. This time, the imperial court's army of more than 60,000 was going to Hunan province. The amount of grain and fodder they needed was not a small amount. However, they would not bring all the grain and fodder at once. They only needed to bring about 10 days' worth of rations. When they arrived at Hunan province, they could either exchange the grain from the local government or transfer it directly from Luoyang. In Chang'an City, the old people who had experienced the great chaos in the early years were all worried when they saw this scene. Where did this war break out? There is going to be a war. The imperial court is going to war. I just don't know where it will be this time. Did the Turks start to harass the border of the Tang Empire again? At present, the imperial court had not officially issued a notice, so even if the people felt that something was wrong, they could only make wild guesses in private. However, those in the officialdom basically knew the cause and effect. The Chui family had rebelled and the world was going to change. Wenhao, Iron Egg, I won't force you. In fact, I don't want you to take risk. So, whether you go or not, it's all up to you. On the way back to Cloud Mountain, Li Zishuan had been considering the candidates from the academy who would go south with the army. First of all, he definitely could not go. It was not that he was afraid of death and did not dare to go on the battlefield. With his current martial arts cultivation, as long as he was not alone on the battlefield and was not surrounded by thousands of people, he would not die. The main reason why he could not go was that the construction of the dam at Ba River had reached the most critical stage. Recently, Yan Xiaoning and Mo Huai had often encountered this and that kind of problems. He had to find a way to solve the problems. If he really could not leave, then the dam would really be ruined. He had spent too much money and effort on this dam. He really could not bear to give it up halfway. Moreover, in his eyes, although the Chui family and the Jing family had a strong foundation and a lot of people, they were still vulnerable in the face of the Tang army. The reason why Cui Junchuo felt that he had a chance was that he wanted to take Luoyang and strengthen himself before the imperial court reacted. However, the telegram sent by Li Yu had completely destroyed the Cui family's painstaking plan. In this way, Cui Junchuo was even less of a threat. Therefore, Li Zishuan felt that it was not worth it for him to go, and there was no need for him to go. Since he was not going, he could only let his students go. Among his students, only Li Tai, Meng Wenhao, and Iron Egg were proficient in using the telegraph. Although Qing Chumo was the first to come into contact with the telegraph, this idiot had never learned how to use it. Therefore, after returning to Yunshan, Li Zishuan sent someone to call Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg to the side yard. He briefly told them about the imperial court's intention to send an army to Zhengzhou to quell the rebellion, and then began to ask for their opinions. "Sir, I'm willing to go. I'm willing to follow the army to Zhengzhou," Meng Wenhao said without hesitation as soon as Li Zishuan finished speaking. Speaking of which, he was still worried about how to help Li Zishuan resolve the crisis. Now that Li Zishuan had made this request, it was exactly what he wanted. Instead of worrying in Chang'an, it was better to go directly to Zhengzhou to help resolve the crisis. "Master, Iron Egg is also willing to go." Not long after Meng Wenhao finished speaking, Iron Egg also spoke up. Li Zishuan looked at the two of them with a solemn expression, saying, "Both of you should think carefully. This is going to the battlefield, not a game. Although you will be staying in the main tent at that time, and the danger will be much smaller, but on the battlefield, there will never be an absolutely safe place. Wenhao, your life doesn't belong to you alone. You still have your parents and sister. If anything happens to you on the battlefield, what will you do to them? And Iron Egg, you are the only son of the Han family. If your father knew that you are going to the battlefield, what would he think?" To be honest, Li Zishuan was quite conflicted. Strictly speaking, following the army to the south was a good opportunity for the students of the academy to gain experience. There was little danger, and if they won the battle, they might even be able to gain military merits, which would benefit them for life. But he was also worried that something would happen to his students in Zhengzhou. After listening to Li Zishuan's earnest words, Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg both lowered their heads. But after a while, Meng Wenhao raised his head and said, "Yamacho, I have made up my mind. This trip to Zhengzhou I must go. If I don't go, I will regret it for the rest of my life. As for my parents, I will persuade them." Iron Egg also raised his head and said with red eyes, "Master, Iron Egg also wants to go. My father went to the north to kill the Turks. Iron Egg also wants to become a hero like my father." Iron Egg. Suddenly, a complicated female voice came from the door. It was Han Yushi. "Wife." Li Zishuan hurriedly got up and greeted her with a guilty conscience, because he didn't have time to discuss this matter with his wife. "Sister, can you not stop Iron Egg?" Iron Egg stood up and looked at Han Yushi. his eyes full of persistence. Han Yushi stared at Iron Egg in front of her in a daze, looking at her brother who she had personally raised. After a long while, she walked forward and patted Iron Egg's shoulder, saying with a complicated tone, "Iron Egg, you have grown up. I don't have the right to make decisions for you anymore. If you've decided on something, then go ahead and do it. Sister only wants you to be safe." Seeing Han Yushi like this, Iron Egg felt an inexplicable sadness in his heart. He held back his tears and said, "Sister, don't worry. Iron Egg will definitely make himself safe. Iron Egg will definitely become a hero like my father." "Husband, you two continue to talk. I will go out and see Lan." Han Yushi quickly turned around and gently wiped the corner of her eyes with her sleeve. She said to Li Zixuan and hurriedly went out. The room was silent. After a while, Li Zixuan forced himself to be spirited and asked, "Both of you want to go?" "Yes." "Yes." Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg nodded solemnly at the same time. Li Zixuan sighed softly and said, "That's good. Since that's the case, then let's both go. We can take care of each other on the way. Go back and pack up immediately. Tomorrow morning, I will send you to Uncle Li. In the future, you will listen to his orders. As for the academy, you don't have to worry. I will ask for leave for you first. When you come back, I will arrange for someone to make up lessons for you." "Yes, Yamacho." "Yes, Master." Chapter 13-14. "Oh, isn't this Madame Yi? Are you here to pray for blessings at Songhua Temple? I heard this morning that County Deputy Yi was sick. Could it be true?" Guangxing County, at the entrance of Songhua Temple. Madame Yi brought Liu, Yi Fashion, and a few others out of the temple. She was stopped by a fat, shifty-eyed, greasy middle-aged man. Behind the man were 4 or 5 bailiffs. At this moment, he was staring at Madame Yi maliciously and said with a smile, "Registrar Wang, what do you mean by this? My husband is sick in bed. As a colleague, it's fine if you don't care about him, but you're actually making sarcastic remarks here. Has your sense of propriety been eaten by dogs?" Hearing this, Madame Wang's face was filled with anger and she scolded mercilessly. She looked exactly like a wife who was eager to protect her husband. Registrar Wang saw this and his eyes flashed. Then, he said with a smile, "Hee. Madame Yi, please don't be angry. Who said that I don't care about County Deputy Yi? I even sent people to send County Deputy Yi a lot of ginseng, bird's nest, and other precious tonics. As a person, what I value the most is the righteousness between friends and colleagues." Madame Yi glared at Registrar Wang coldly and didn't continue to say anything. Registrar Wang rolled his eyes and pretended to be depressed. He patted his head and said, Look at this official's memory. I brought people here to catch the rebels. Why did I mention this to Madame Yi?" "Rebels?" Madame Yi, Yi Fashion, Liu, and the others were all shocked. Finally, Madame Yi forced herself to look calmly at Registrar Wang and said, "What rebels? When did Guangxing County have rebels? Moreover, Registrar Wang, why did you catch the rebels at Songhua Temple?" Registrar Wang didn't answer. He turned his gaze to Yi Fashion and Liu behind Madame Yi. Then, he went forward and asked, "Madame Yi, who are this young master and this young lady? I've known County Deputy Yi for many years. How come I've never seen them before? Don't tell me they're your long-lost children." "Shut up." Upon hearing this, Madame Yi's eyes were filled with anger as she said, "Don't talk nonsense, Registrar Wang. They are my master's niece and nephew. They entered the city a few days ago. If Registrar Wang continues to talk nonsense, don't blame me for being rude." Yi Fashion and Liu were also furious. If it weren't for the special situation, they would have beaten Registrar Wang up a long time ago. "Don't be angry. Madame Yi, please don't be angry." Registrar Wang waved his hand fearfully and said, "I'm just asking casually, there's no need for Madame Yi to be angry." "Oh right. Were this young master and this young lady at home last night? Yi Fashion's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, what should come has finally come. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Madame Yi standing in front of him. With a look of disdain, she said, "Nonsense? If they're not at home, where else could they have gone?" Registrar Wang crossed his arms and asked lightly, "Is there anyone who can testify?" Madame Yi panicked, but she knew that she couldn't panic at this moment. She took 2 deep breaths and glared at him. "What? Registrar Wang wants to testify? Fine, when we return to the Yi residence, I'll ask all the servants and maids to testify. Our Yi family has never done anything wrong, why would we be afraid of your investigation? But you, Registrar Wang, without any evidence, what right do you have to interrogate our Yi family members? You're offending your superiors. When my master recovers, I'll go to the county office to find the county magistrate to judge." Registrar Wang's eyes flashed with an unnatural look. Then he smiled and said, "Ha ha! I'm the one who's joking, there's no need for Madame Yi to be angry. As for Deputy Yi going to find the county magistrate to judge, he can do as he pleases. I'm afraid he won't make it in time. Ha!" After saying that, Registrar Wang laughed proudly. "Won't make it in time? What do you mean?" Madame Yi frowned and asked. "Ha ha! Nothing." Registrar Wang shook his head and looked at Madame Yi. He whispered, "Li Lanju, 10 years ago, why didn't you choose me, Wang Qing, but Yi Minglei? Ha ha, what's the result? In a few days, Yi Minglei will die and you'll be a widow. Tsk. What a pity! What a pity! You, Wang Qing, you've gone too far." Madame Yi was shocked and angry. She pointed at Registrar Wang and said while gritting her teeth, "You're asking for death." Yi Fashion looked at Registrar Wang with a gloomy look. His heart was filled with murderous intent. Although Wang Cheng's voice was low, Yi Fashion heard every word. From his point of view, he had brought trouble to his second uncle's family when he accompanied Li Yu to manage the city. Now, someone had insulted his second aunt, whom he had respected since he was young, in front of him. How could he tolerate this? Moreover, after Wang He, the servant of the Yi residence, found out about Li Yu's identity, he secretly went to inform on Wang Qing. Kill. Although Yi Fashion was a Taoist, when he met someone who deserved to be killed, he would not show any mercy. However, there were too many people here. If he killed Wang Qing, none of them would be able to escape. "I'll let this bastard live for another 2 days," Yi Fashion thought to himself. "Ha ha! Alright. Since there are no traitors here, I'll take my leave. However, I still have to give Madame Yi a piece of advice. For the next 2 days, you and Deputy Yi should not go out as you wish." Wang Qing smiled and then left with his men as if nothing had happened. "Brother Yi, this bastard is evil. If there's a chance, I'll cut off his head for you." After Wang Qing had left, Lu Rengui patted Yi Fashion's shoulder and said, "Thank you." After returning to the Yi residence, Yi Minglei asked Madame Yi, Li Yu and Yi Fashion to change into the coarse clothes of the commoners. He also instructed the housekeeper to close the door and decline all visitors for the next 2 days. When the sky was about to turn dark, Lu Rengui led the Yi family out of the residence and headed towards the south of the county. At this time, the commoners were in a hurry to go home. There were quite a lot of people on the streets. Moreover, the sky was dark and it was not easy for others to recognize them. 3/4 of an hour later, they finally arrived at Lu Rengui's rented courtyard without any mishap. "How is it? Has the information been sent out?" As soon as they entered the house, Wei Jing impatiently went up to them and asked before they could even greet each other. Little Yu clasped her hands and smiled. "Deputy Wei, fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. When it was close to noon, I had sent everything here to the Yamacho. The Yamacho said that he will go to the palace immediately to meet the emperor. He estimated that the army from the imperial court will be here soon." Wei Zheng was overjoyed. It's done? It's really done? The Duke of Yong'an's telegraph machine has done a great job. Next, we should think about how to get out of here and help the imperial court to suppress the rebellion. Chapter 13-15. The officials of Chang'an were busy, and the people panicked at the news of the war. The soldiers of the three armies were mobilized to reinforce Luoyang. The war decree signed by Li Er, the ruler of the Great Tang Empire, had instantly placed Chang'an in a state of war. Mobilizing 60,000 to 70,000 soldiers to quell the rebellion in Zhengzhou was no small matter. The mobilization of soldiers, the allocation of weapons, and the allocation of rations were all coordinated by the officials of the various departments of the imperial court. Moreover, the military situation was urgent. The army was about to set out tomorrow, so the officials were even busier. The officials of the 6 ministries of the imperial court all wished they had 8 legs. Those officials who had applied for leave at home were all called back. Unless they were so sick that they couldn't get out of bed, even if the sky fell down, they had to return to their yamen. The last time the 6 ministries of the imperial court were as busy as they were today was back in the 9th year of Wuda, when the Turkic army had besieged the city. This emergency war was an enormous test for all the departments of the Great Tang imperial court, and it was also a good opportunity to test the efficiency of the officials of the 6 ministries. Within Ganlu Palace, Li Er was not idle for even a moment. For the entire afternoon, there were constantly courtiers coming in and out of this place, reporting to him on the progress of the various preparations for the army's expedition. At this time, a special person who rarely appeared in the sweet nectar hall. Your Majesty, all the officials in Chang'an who are related to the Chui family of Qinghe, the Chui family of Bowling, and the Zheng family of Xingyang have been monitored by the cavalry. Once they act rashly, they will be arrested immediately. This person was Li Junxian, the man who was in charge of 100 cavalry for Li Er. Junxian, you've done well. In addition, you must have people on guard against these officials sending pigeons to Zhengzhou. Li Er's eyes flashed with cold light as he sternly said. The Chui clan of Qinghe, the Zheng clan of Xingyang, and the Zheng clan of Bowling were all 1,000-year-old clans. Many of the officials of the Great Tang imperial court had once been scholars from these 3 clans. After all, although the imperial court had opened the imperial examinations, scholars relying on the great clans was still the norm. In this situation, Li Er had no choice but to guard against the officials related to the Chui clan and the Zheng clan secretly leaking information. At this time, Li Er had to be grateful to his old man, Li Yuan. Back then, after Li Yuan established the Tang Dynasty and pacified the world, he had already begun to intentionally exclude the officials from aristocratic families from the center of power. Although there were still a large number of officials in the court who came from aristocratic families, there were very few who held important positions. At present, the rising nobles of Great Tang were gradually gaining the strength to contend against the established noble clans. This subject obeys the decree. Li Junxian clasped his fist and left. Cloud Mountain Villa. Wife, are you blaming your husband for letting Iron Egg go to Zhengzhou? After finishing all the work in the afternoon, Li Zishuan saw Han Yushi sitting alone in the courtyard in a daze. He walked quietly behind her, bent down, and held Han Yushi's slender waist as he whispered in her ear. Husband! Suddenly being hugged by someone, Han Yushi was startled. When she turned her head and saw that it was Li Zishuan, she leaned her head on Li Zishuan's shoulder and whispered, Husband, this concubine doesn't blame you. This concubine knows that you are doing this for the good of Iron Egg. If he can earn a military merit this time, he will be able to enjoy glory and splendor for the rest of his life. However, this concubine only has this one younger brother. For him to suddenly go to such a faraway place by himself, this concubine is very worried. Seeing his wife frown, Li Zishuan stroked her cheeks with some heartache. Then, he said, Wife, there is no need to worry. This trip to Zhengzhou is not for him to charge at the front lines. He should only be managing the intelligence in the central tent. Besides, Iron Egg now also has martial arts. Even if he encounters an accident, he will be able to protect himself. Don't you think so? Han Yushi turned around and pressed her forehead against Li Zixuan's forehead. Her clear eyes looked into Li Zixuan's eyes. After a while, she whispered, "This concubine will listen to you, husband. You are our Han family's benefactor, and also our Han family's lucky star. If you say that Iron Egg will be fine, then he will definitely be fine." Li Zixuan couldn't help but laugh. He. I didn't know that your husband had this ability. After making a joke, Li Zixuan's face became serious. He said, "All right, wife, don't be unhappy. This husband has to go and see grandfather and grandmother, especially grandmother." After she heard that Fa Shan was trapped in the city, she couldn't even eat lunch. "I have to go and see him." Han Yushi nodded and said, "All right. This concubine will go with you, husband." All right. The sky was getting dark, but the city of Chang'an did not become quiet because of the curfew. The 6 government offices near the imperial city were still brightly lit. There were still troops and grain carts passing by on the street. All these signs indicated that a war was about to break out. Correspondingly, the city of Guangxing was not peaceful tonight because the state government's army was catching the thieves. The cause of the incident started when Registrar Wang returned to the county office in the afternoon. "County Magistrate, Old Master Chui will start a rebellion the day after tomorrow. Before that, we have to get rid of the spies in the county office. Otherwise, if we ruin Old Master Chui's plan, I'm afraid we will lose our lives." Registrar Wang came to the back office and found Chui Yong, the county magistrate of Guangxing County, who was drinking tea and listening to music. He was a distant relative of the Chui family. Hearing this, Chui Yong narrowed his eyes and said, What does Registrar Wang mean? There is a spy in the county office? Who is it?" Registrar Wang looked around. Chui Yong waved his hand impatiently and said, all right. You can all leave now." The maids and servants around, as well as the girl who was playing the song, all left as instructed. Registrar Wang then said carefully, "County Magistrate, Deputy Yi is the spy hiding in our county office." Chui Yong was shocked. He stared and swallowed his saliva, saying, "Registrar Wang, you can't say this casually. Do you have any evidence?" "County Magistrate, of course I don't have any evidence. Yi Minglei will be very careful when doing this kind of thing. How can he leave any evidence? But County Magistrate, think about it carefully. Yi Minglei has an inexplicable relationship with the Yi family in Nanyang. And I heard from a friend in Chang'an last month that old Master Yi went to Chang'an last year to recognize his relatives, and he recognized Marquis Yong. And do you think Yi Minglei will help old Master Chui or His Majesty in the future? And several times before, when old Master Chui asked us to recruit people into the army, Deputy Yi has always been a yes man and refused again and again. Do you think he has an ulterior motive? County Magistrate, forgive me for being blunt. At this critical moment, we would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than miss one. Otherwise, you and I will be doomed eternally." Finally, County Magistrate Chui was persuaded by Registrar Wang. He immediately asked the constable of the county office to go to the Yi family and invite Yi Minglei to the county office for a talk. The Yi family was now closed to visitors, so the constable of the county office couldn't enter. Later, Registrar Wang personally led the Yamen runners and forced their way into the Yi family's mansion, only to find that Yi Minglei and his family were all gone. So, after reporting to the higher authorities, the provincial governor's office was alerted. The soldiers of the provincial government and the Yamen runners began to search the whole city for Yi Minglei. Chapter 13-16. Brother Daniel? Are you at home? In front of a house in the south of Guangxing County. Yes. Su Fangxing, why are you here? The door of the house opened and Lu Ringui walked out. Since he sneaked into Guangxing County last month, he even changed his name. Now he was called Rendaniu. Alas! Aren't the officers and soldiers of the county government looking for Deputy Yi everywhere? They even said that he is a traitor. But Deputy Yi is so nice to the people. How can he be a traitor? I don't understand the world anymore. Oh, Dainiu, after a while, the officers and soldiers will find our workshop. I will go to each house in advance to see if anyone has hidden Deputy District Magistrate Yi. Su Fangxing was an old man in his 60s. He looked honest and kind. He looked at Lu Ringui and talked for a long time before he told him the real purpose of his visit. There was a market system in the Tang Dynasty. Naturally, there was a Fangxing. The Fangxing was not only in charge of the opening and closing of the gate, but also in charge of maintaining the public order in the district. Lu Ringui was a little surprised, but he pretended to be depressed and complained, Fangxing, why is Guangxing County getting more and more chaotic recently? The deputy magistrate of the county yamen was actually mistaken as a spy and even locked the city gates every day to prevent people from going out. Sigh, we were originally here to help people purchase goods from the county. But because of this delay, it has been almost a month. What a loss, what a loss. Su Fangxing couldn't bear it. He had heard about Lu Ringui's experience before. Now he was trapped in Guangxing County. He sympathized with him. So Su Fangxing comforted him. Dainiu, it's all because of the government. I don't want to see you lose money. For now, all of you can rest assured and stay here. When the city gates open, this old man will come over to inform you. Lu Ringui said gratefully, alas. Thank you, Su Fangxing. Oh, Fangxing, since you are here to find a spy, come in and have a look. Su Fangxing nodded slightly and said, okay, I will go in and have a look. Then he walked into the yard with his hands behind his back. Alas! Su Fangxing is here? Su Fangxing. In the courtyard, Lu Ringui's brothers saw Su Fangxing come in and quickly came over to greet him. Su Fangxing nodded and then walked straight into the inner room. In the end, he didn't even see a single outsider. Su Fangxing, have you finished your investigation? Other than us rough men, who else would come here? A quarter of an hour later, Lu Ringui saw Su Fang coming out of the courtyard. He hurriedly went up to him and asked, yes, there are no outsiders in the house. Then, little brother Dainiu, this old man will not disturb you any further. Goodbye. Su Fangxing cupped his hands and took his leave. Su Fangxing, take care. Lu Ringui watched him leave. Then he turned to the several big men behind him and said, Old Feng, later when the people from the county government come, you help to deal with them. During the day, I met Registrar Wang. If he leads a team to search tonight, he may recognize me. I will go to the underground tunnel to accompany Minister Wei and the others tonight. All right. Don't worry, General. Old Feng, will be careful. A slightly older middle-aged man cupped his fists and replied. Lu Ringui nodded and went into the house to tidy up. Then, he jumped into the well. Half an hour later, the house was slapped once again. Bang, bang, bang. Open the door, the government is investigating. Old Feng, who had promised Lu Ringui to deal with the soldiers, hurriedly went to open the door. Coming, coming. Hey, officers, come in and have some tea. Old Feng said with a big smile. Because he saw that among this group of people, there were all constables from the county government. No one was wearing an official's uniform, which meant that Registrar Wang didn't come in person. Since the King of Hell didn't come, these little devils could be dealt with some benefit. I heard from Su Fangxing that you are not locals. Tell me, where are you from? Are there any other unidentified people staying here today? The head of the constables said arrogantly. Speaking of which, as low-level officials, if they didn't think of ways to plunder the wealth of the people, how would they live their lives? Old Feng was very perceptive. He stuffed a few notes of Tang yuan and said, "Officer, we came to Guangxing County to buy goods for a boss in Shuzhou. We didn't expect that Guangxing County didn't allow people to go out of the city. So, we temporarily live here. This house has always belonged to us, and there has never been an outsider coming here." The constable nodded with satisfaction and said, "Well, whether there are outsiders or not, we will know after checking. Go in and search. Be gentle, don't break other people's things. As the saying goes, if you eat someone's food, you have to be soft-hearted." The constable was also a smart person. Yes. 5 constables entered the house, and the constable was invited to the front hall to drink tea. Half an hour later, a group of people went out and left. Naturally, they didn't find Yi Minglei inside. It was a close call but not dangerous. Chang'an, Lantian County, Yunshan No. 1 Courtyard. It was late at night, but the light in the study was still on. Lu Rengui. I wonder if this Lu Rengui is the same Lu Rengui from history. Li Zishuan leaned on the chair and looked at the information sent by Li Yu in the morning. He was in a daze. During the day, he focused on the Cui family's rebellion and didn't pay attention to the other key person in this matter, Lu Rengui. If he remembered correctly, Lu Rengui was an extremely famous general in Tang Dynasty. In the 3rd year of Gaozong Long Shua's reign, when Neon became stronger and stronger. At that time, Emperor Tenzi of Japan wanted to occupy the Korean peninsula and then the mainland. Therefore, he supported Beech to fight against Silla. He sent nearly 50,000 soldiers and thousands of warships to fight against Tang Dynasty. At that time, Lu Rengui of the Tang Dynasty only brought 7,000 soldiers and encountered the main force of Wannian at Baijiankou. After a big battle, the Wannian army was almost completely wiped out. In the Battle of Baijiankou, the Tang Dynasty navy fully utilized their advantage and defeated the Wannian navy, which had several times more soldiers and warship. It could be said to be a classic naval battle where the few won against the many. This battle was also the first battle between China and Japan as national entities. It was also one of the earliest known international battles in Northeast Asia. The final result of the victory of the Tang Dynasty and the Xinhua Alliance army basically established the political, economic, and cultural structure of Northeast Asia for more than 1,000 years. At the same time, this battle taught Wannian how to behave and made them realize the huge gap between them and Tang Dynasty. Thus, until Toyotomi Hideyoshi invaded Korea in 1592, Japan didn't dare to fight against China for nearly 1,000 years. Feiji, tomorrow you will go with the army to Zhengzhou. After you go, follow Iron Egg or be Uncle Li's personal guard. If you meet someone called Lu Rengui and he's in danger, do your best to help him. After destroying the rebels, bring Lu Rengui back to Chang'an. This marquis wants to see him. Li Zishuan came to the door and instructed Pang Feiji, who was outside. He was a nationalistic youth, and Lu Rengui, to a modern person like him, was an out-and-out national hero. Not only did he raise the prestige of the country, but he also ensured that China wouldn't be invaded by Wannian for nearly 1,000 years. He really wanted to see such a person with his own eyes. Marquis, but if I go to Zhengzhou, who will protect you? Pang Feiji said reluctantly. Li Zishuan glared at him and said grumpily, I'm the one protecting you? Or you protect me? Do I need you to protect me? If I tell you to go, then go. This matter is very important to me. Go and pack. After saying that, he went straight to his room to sleep. Yes, Marquis. Pang Feiji scratched his head and could only go back to pack his luggage, pitifully. Chapter 13-17. The next day, the morning court was adjourned. Li Er led the officials out of the imperial city. They passed through the Vermilion Bird Avenue and headed straight for the south gate of Chang'an. The citizens who had noticed the chaos in Chang'an yesterday saw Li Er leading the officials out of the city. They were even more certain that the imperial court was preparing for war. the Tang Dynasty, which had unified the world and enjoyed peace for many years, finally welcomed another war. However, most of the citizens did not know where the war was going to take place this time. However, they would know everything in an hour. That was because the latest issue of Tang Daily would be released in an hour. Outside Chang'an, in the southern suburbs. At this time, the soldiers of the three armies had already gathered. More than 60,000 soldiers stood neatly on the drill ground with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. They formed a line horizontally, a line vertically, and a line diagonally. Speaking of which, such a neat formation was all thanks to Li Zishuan. Last year, when Yanhuang College held its opening military drill, Li Er led the officials and envoys from various countries to watch it. The neat formation and running movements of the students shocked Li Er, the officials, and the envoys from various countries. After that, Li Er announced that he would patrol the barrack. Hence, the daily training of the various barracks in the capital was more or less influenced by the military drill of Yanhuang College. Therefore, it was not surprising that these 60,000 soldiers were in such a neat formation. Li Er led the officials out of Chang'an's Mingda Gate and went straight to the drill ground. The officials stood on the left side of the drill ground while Li Er went up to the stage to call out the generals. In addition, Li Zishuan had also arrived. He had arrived earlier than the others. He had handed Meng Wenhao, iron egg, Pang Feiji, a telegraph machine, and 2 fairy lamps to Li Jing and waited there. Now that Li Er had arrived, he slipped into the crowd of the officials. "Greetings, Your Majesty." After Li Er ascended the stage, the civil and military officials, as well as the 60,000 soldiers below the stage, bowed and saluted him. Their voices were like a great bell, and their auras were majestic. "Rise." Looking at the mighty and majestic army in front of him, Li Er could not help but feel agitated. The battlefield was the place he, Li Shimin, yearned for. After a moment of silence, Li Erhong said, "Ever since I ascended the throne, I have worked hard every day and night. I have only one goal, and that is to let the people of the Tang Empire live and work in peace and contentment. After more than a year of hard work, I have almost achieved it. Especially last winter, no one in Chang'an froze to death. I believe all of you know this. However, there are some people who have evil intentions and want to overturn my country. Let the people, let your family, elders, and fellow villagers live a bitter life again, and let the world become chaotic again. I ask you, do you agree or not?" "No. I don't agree." As soon as Li Er's words fell, the 60,000 soldiers on the drill ground all roared at the top of their lungs. Their shouts shook the sky, and the clouds above everyone's heads disappeared at this moment. It was as if they were scattered by this earth-shattering roar. After a few breaths, Li Er pressed his hand down, and the soldiers of the three armies immediately became quiet. Then he said, "Good. Today, Cui Junchuo of the Cui family of Qinghe disregarded the emperor's grace and cooperated with the Cui family of Boling, the Zheng family of Xinjiang, and the provincial governor of Zhengzhou to rebel against the emperor, destroy our country, and subvert the country. I order you to go to Zhengzhou immediately to suppress the rebellion. Where is Li Jing, the general officer of the army of Hunan province?" Li Jing, dressed in armor, stepped forward and saluted. "I am here." Li Er raised the long sword in his hand and said, "This is my sword, and also the emperor's sword. When you go to Zhengzhou, the 28 states of Hunan province will be under your control. If anyone dares to disobey, you can directly kill him with this sword. I give you the right to kill first and report later. Come forward and receive the sword." After that, all the officials looked sideways. Li Jing's body and mind were shocked. Li Er gave him such a heavy right in front of everyone's eyes, which all showed Li Er's deep trust in him. This made Li Jing, who had been hiding at home in recent years, very moved in his heart. "Thank you for your trust, Your Majesty. Li Jing will go and eliminate the rebels for the imperial court." Li Jing saluted and said solemnly, Yes. I believe you. Li Er nodded and gestured for Li Jing to go on stage to accept the emperor's sword. Li Jing went on stage and respectfully received it with both hands. Right at this moment, a red sun rose from the east, and instantly, it shone brightly onto the drill ground. Li Er suddenly had a feeling of lofty ambition, and he shouted, "Beat the drums, soldiers of the three armies, set out! Destroy the rebels and reinforce Luoyang!" Dong 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 dong. The four bare-chested strongmen on the stage began to beat the drums at the same time. The drumbeats went from slow to fast, as if they were beating on everyone's hearts. Everyone on the drill ground couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. Li Jing, who was on the stage, hurriedly cupped his hands and stepped down to command the army to set off. What was interesting was that the Tang army's turning and running movements were very similar to the military training of Yanhuang College's students. Their movements were very uniform. However, in comparison, the movements of these soldiers had more iron and blood. One could feel the killing intent emitted by the army from afar. Bang bang bang! More than 60,000 soldiers, led by their generals, left the drill ground in an orderly manner. Only the sound of their neat footsteps and shouts could be heard in the world. "Destroy the rebels and reinforce Luoyang! Destroy the rebels and reinforce Luoyang!" The army gradually moved away. The civil and military officials on the drill ground looked in the direction of the army and could not help but feel agitated. At this moment Fang Xianling stood behind Li Er and said with emotion, "Your Majesty, with such a powerful army, there is no need to worry about the rebels and the Tang Empire not prospering." Li Er turned to the officials and faintly smiled. If the great Tang wants to prosper, it still has a long way to go. Now that the internal problems have arisen, there are still external problems. In the future, my beloved officials, only by working diligently can you help us build a prosperous great Tang. Your subjects will definitely do our best until the day we die. The officials heard this and bowed in unison. "Ha! Good. Prepare the carriage and return to the city." Li Er waved his sleeves and turned to leave. The mobilization meeting before the war finally came to an end. Li Zishuan looked to the south again. Among the 60,000 soldiers, there were his personal guards, students, and apprentices. He would not believe it if he said that he was not worried. However, the army of the imperial court this time was unprecedentedly strong. With Li Zishuan as the commander, Qing Yaojin, Niu Jinda, and Qin Qiong as the generals, not to mention the rebels of the Cui family, they could even fight against the Turk. It was because of this that Li Zishuan dared to let Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao go south with the army. The officials returned to the city, while Li Zishuan returned to Yunshan. The people of Chang and only heard the sound of drums and deafening shouts from outside the city. However, for them, a lively day had just begun. Chapter 13-18. Newspapers are being sold. Newspapers are being sold. The freshly printed Datong Daily. Today's headline: Cui family of Qinghe rebelled against the imperial court. Li Jing, the Minister of War, led troops into Zhengzhou to quell the rebellion. The commotion outside the city had just subsided. Inside Chang'an city and the surrounding counties began to bustle with noise and excitement. The manservants at the newsstands and the paperboys on the streets were hawking as usual. However, the content that came out of their mouths today was earth-shattering. "What? The Cui family rebelled? Quick, give me a copy of the newspaper. Give me one too." When the people heard this, combined with yesterday's rumors and the commotion outside the city this morning, they instantly believed 90% of it. Everyone rushed to the newsstands or the paperboys, wanting to buy a copy of Datong Daily to find out what was going on. In today's Datong Daily, the articles on the interaction of literati and current news sections were all talking about the same thing: the Cui family's rebellion. Many of the authors of the articles were big shots in the imperial court, such as Zhangsun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Duruhui, and so on. These big shots had never appeared in Tang daily before. Now, because of the Chui family's rebellion, all of them appeared at once. It was really a feast for the eyes of the literati. Under the condemnation of the big shots in the imperial court and the reporters in the editorial department of Tang Daily, the numerous crimes committed by the Chui family in the early years, the conspiracy to rebel in Zhengzhou this year, and the instigation of the people to rebel, were all exposed in front of everyone's eyes. Ghastly, it could only be described as ghastly. Last year, Li Zishuan had used the unjustly dead maid Nianyu to ignite the anger of the people in Chang'an City. He had directly flattened the Chui family's stronghold in Chang'an City. Therefore, the people did not have a good impression of the Chui family. Now that this matter had happened, the people did not have a good impression of the Chui family of Qinghe that had existed for thousands of years. How dare they? The Chui family actually dared to privately recruit soldiers and rebel against the imperial court? To think that they are from the 5 surnames and 7 nobles. How dare they do such a disgraceful thing? What? The Chui family colluded with bandits to assassinate Minister Wei in Zhengzhou? Who gave them the guts? Tisk. Isn't it because Wei Zhuqing found out too much about the Chui family's illegal activities in Zhengzhou that they became anxious? What? Wei Zhuqing was assassinated? How is he now? This is not clear. Tang Daily only said that last month, Zhengzhou Guangxing County was attacked by a group of bandits. This group of bandits also collided with the provincial government office. Wei Zhuqing's whereabouts are unknown. Tang Daily's reporters suspect that all of this is the Chui family's doing. Wei Zhuqing was harmed by the Chui clan? Damn the Chui family. Left Minister Wei is a rare good official in our great Tang. Nothing must happen to him. After a few years of peace, the Chui family wants to start a war again. The ones who will suffer are the local people. Humph. The Chui family has committed all kinds of evil deeds and should be punished by both humans and God. I want to join the army and quell the rebellion for His Majesty. Although the aristocratic families of today had won over many scholars, there was still a considerable number of scholars from humble backgrounds who were biased towards the imperial court. Once they heard that the Chui family had plotted against Wei Jing and plotted a rebellion, many scholars rolled up their sleeves and prepared to give up their brushes to join the army and rush to the battlefield. Perhaps this was the spirit of a scholar. Scholar Zhang, you should save your breath. With your delicate skin and tender flesh, how can you endure the hardships of the battlefield? You should study hard and obtain scholarly honors. Uncle Hu, you're wrong to say that. If I can endure the hardships of studying, why can't I endure the hardships of the battlefield? Say whatever you want. Even if you want to join the army to quell the rebellion, it's already too late. Because when this old man entered the city this morning, I saw that the army outside the city had already set off. What? The army has already set off? So soon? Of course. If it were any later, wouldn't the Chui family have done even more evil? Yunshan, Yanhuang College. The news of the Chui family's rebellion caused a huge uproar among the students. Of course, what shocked the students even more was that Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao had also set off with the army this time. This was quite incredible to them. Since ancient times, the dreams of scholars were nothing more than self-cultivation, ruling the country and pacifying the world. Now, Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao were leading everyone on the path of pacifying the world. This made the students very envious and yearn for it. Damn! Why can Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao go, but Bao Lin and I can't? With our martial arts skills, if we go to Zhengzhou, won't we be able to kill 7 times in and 7 times out of the rebel army? When Qing Chumo heard the news, he couldn't help but pat his thigh and gloomily said, speaking of this rebellion, his father Qing Yaojin directly led the army. He should be the one who went the most. In the end, the people who went were Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg. It would be strange if he wasn't depressed. Chumo, I want to go too, but my father definitely won't let me go. You too. Yuchi Bao Lin thought about it and shook his head. Why? My martial arts skills are so good, I can definitely make a name for myself if I go. Ching Chumo stared at him and shamelessly said. Yuchi Bao Lin pursed his lips and hesitated. After a while, he said, Chonyo, I think Yamacho is right. Next year, on Arbor Day, I should plant a tree in your heart. Damn, Bao Lin, are you asking for a beating? Ching Chumo almost choked to death. Just as he was about to hit him, a light cough came from behind him. Ahem. Ching Chumo turned around and saw Li Zixuan. He quickly stopped. Li Zixuan glanced at him, then ignored him and went straight to the podium. In Class 1, the students suddenly quieted down. The 2 empty seats were a bit conspicuous at this time. The Chui family is rebelling. Wen Hao and Iron Egg are going south with the army. They are both Yanhuang College's heroes. I know that some of you want to be heroes, but before you do, please learn the knowledge that the teachers from the school have taught you. Do you know why I chose them to go to Zhengzhou? It is because they know how to use a telegraph. The transmission of information from Zhengzhou to Chang'an requires a telegraph. In the future war, it is not enough to just rely on martial arts. When the time comes, the wisdom of Yanhuang College's students will be used more and more. So, if you want to serve the country, you have to learn well. Do you all understand? Li Zixuan looked at the pairs of eager eyes below the podium and nodded with satisfaction. He then spoke to all the students. Understood. After the students heard the reason why Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg joined the army, they felt energized. In the past, they only thought that engineering could allow them to become a small official or a wealthy person. Now, they realized that engineering had a more important role, and that was to protect the country. Chapter 13-19. How many soldiers do we have now? Do we have enough provisions? Zhengzhou, Guangxing County, Chui Family Courtyard. Chui Junchua looked at Pan Jinyue, who came to report, and asked. Pan Jinyue cupped his hands and replied, In the past 2 months, we have secretly and openly recruited a total of 200,000 soldiers. All the youths inside and outside the city have been taken away by us. In addition to the 20,000 soldiers and the 30,000 secret guards of the Chui family, we have a total of 250,000 soldiers. As for the provisions, the Chui family of Bowling and the Jing family of Xingyang are not willing to provide manpower. They are only willing to provide material and financial resources. Therefore, we have enough provisions to feed the 250,000 soldiers for 3 months. Chui family of Bowling? Jing family of Xingyang? They are all old foxes. Chui Junchuo heard this and snorted with dissatisfaction. He thought for a while and said, Let's not care about them for now. They are all people who sail according to the wind. After we take down Luoyang, they will bring their soldiers and deliver themselves to us. Great-grandfather is wise. Pan Jinyue cupped his hands and agreed. The aristocratic families valued benefit. The Chui family of Bowling and the Jing family of Xingyang were only tied to the same boat because of benefit. They were far from being able to live and die together. Try to recruit more people for tomorrow's pledge ceremony. As long as they are under 40 years old, you can recruit them. Some of them are weak, so let them charge and break through the enemy lines. Luoyang is big and strong, so it needs to be filled with human lives. Remember, the soldiers of the provincial governor's office and the secret guards of the Chui family must not be used as vanguards. Chui Junchuo's eyes flashed coldly and said coldly. Pan Jinyue felt a chill in his heart. He quickly cupped his hands and said, Yes, great-grandfather. Chui Junchuo nodded and said, however, the Jianghu experts that the Chui family has raised over the years can be transferred to you. Although these people are strong in martial arts, they are simple-minded and far from being generals. However, if they are used for assassination or as the vanguard to attack the enemy's formation or kill the enemy's generals, they should be competent. Pan Jinue was excited. Most of his subordinates were mediocre, so he needed those experts. Therefore, he cupped his hands and said, "Great-grandfather, thank you for your trust. Have you found Yi Minglei and Wei Jing?" After a moment of silence, Cui Junchuo suddenly asked. Wei Zheng had always been a thorn in his heart, but Yi Minglei, who had mysteriously disappeared yesterday, had planted another thorn in his heart, making him unable to eat or sleep in peace. Pan Jinue cupped his hands in embarrassment and replying to Grand Duke, "This student has sent people to search the entire Guanqing County, but we couldn't find Wei Zheng and Yi Minglei." Lost in thought for a long time, Cui Junchuo sighed helplessly and said, "It's fine if we can't find them. They should be hiding in some unknown corner, struggling at death's door. Anyway, it won't affect the overall situation. Let's prepare for tomorrow's morale-raising ceremony." His words sounded like he was comforting others, but only Cui Junchuo knew that he was comforting himself. "Yes. How is it? Are you not used to it?" On the official road from Chang unto Zhengzhou, tens of thousands of soldiers stretched for several li and were advancing rapidly. The soldiers ran for a while and walked for a while without resting in between. This was the rapid march of the ancient times. Because of Li Zishuan, Meng Wenhao and Iron Egg received some preferential treatment. They didn't have to walk, but rode horses instead. Iron Egg was as agile as a monkey, so riding a horse was not a problem for him. However, Meng Wenhao had never ridden a horse before, so he had to ride with Pang Feiji. At this time, Iron Egg looked at Meng Wenhao's pale face and asked worriedly. Riding a horse was not like riding a carriage. Riding a horse would only be more bumpy. The army had only advanced for more than 30 li, but Meng Wenhao was already a little dizzy from the bumpy ride. At this moment, when he heard Iron Egg's concern, he forced a smile on his face and said, "I'm fine. Iron Egg, how many li have we traveled?" "About 20 or 30 li. Wenhao, if you persist for a while, the army will probably stop to rest and cook in a while." Iron Egg looked at the sun that was about to reach the top of their heads and said, Meng Wenhao heard and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he asked curiously, "Iron Egg, why do I feel that you are very familiar with marching and fighting?" Iron Egg smiled and said, "I heard it from my father. He often told me about his battles in the north a few years ago." "Oh, I see. The Grand General has ordered the 3 armies to rest and reorganize. All the cooks in the barracks will cook. After 2 hours, the army will set off and continue to march. The Grand General has ordered the 3 armies to rest and reorganize. All the cooks in the barracks will cook. After 2 hours, the army will set off and continue to march." Coincidentally, as the two were talking, a messenger came from the front of the army, riding a horse and shouting at the same time. Zhenguan's second year, the 30th of March. Hunan Province, Zhengzhou, Guanqing County. Early in the morning, the soldiers of the government office knocked on every door and asked all the people to gather at the drill ground in the east. No matter men or women, old or young, everyone must go. Adjunct Lu, are we really all going? In the south of the city, in the house rented by Lu Rengue and the others, a big man asked Lu Rengue. Just now, Su Fangzheng came to tell them that the soldiers were coming to urge them to go to the drill ground. Lu Rengue frowned and hesitated for a moment. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "Go! If we don't go, this place will probably be surrounded by the state capital's troops when the time comes. But Deputy Wei and Deputy Yi can't go. I will talk to them later and ask them to hide in the tunnel. Oh, Old Feng, I heard that you know how to disguise yourself? Can you help me? Registrar Wang of the county government has seen me before. We can't let him see through it." Old Feng's real name was Feng Wu. He used to be a lieutenant in the Bianzhou provincial governor's mansion. He was almost the second in command in this army. Hearing this, he was a little embarrassed and said, "Hey, Adjunct Lu, I used to brag about it to others. To put it nicely, it's called a disguise. In fact, it's just putting a few mustaches on the face and making a few wrinkles. It's not a disguise." Lu Rengue choked. After a while, he said helplessly, "Just put on the mustaches. It's fine as long as Registrar Wang doesn't recognize me. Old Feng, hurry up." Feng Wu was suddenly energized. He said excitedly, "Okay. Adjunct Lu, just wait and see. Hey." A quarter of an hour later, Lu Rengue returned with a basin of water. Looking at the ferocious-looking man with an unshaven beard and a hideous scar on his face reflected in the water, Lu Rengue suddenly had the urge to chop him up with a knife. He used to be a handsome Confucian general, okay? How could he meet people like this? "Adjunct Lu? Adjunct Lu? How's my skill? Look, this scar looks like a real one. I'm sure your mother won't recognize you." Old Feng didn't have good eyesight. He was still complacent. "Get out." Lu Rengue was furious. He suddenly raised his head and roared. Old Feng was so scared that he immediately ran away. This Registrar Wang is really a hindrance. If it wasn't for him, would it be so troublesome? I have to find a chance to get rid of him. Lu Rengue pinched his big beard and muttered softly. East of the city, on a drill ground, tens of thousands of people came to the drill ground. These people not only included the people in the city, but also many people from the villages outside the city. In the past month, people were only allowed to enter the city, but not allowed to leave the city. Those farmers who didn't know the truth, once they entered the city, they couldn't leave. Today, they were also sent to the drill ground. Stand in line. Men stand on the left, women stand on the right. Children under 10 years old and people above 40 years old stand at the back. On the drill ground, there were thousands of armored soldiers patrolling and maintaining order. You stop? Suddenly, a soldier stopped a middle-aged man. The man trembled and said, "Sir, you called me?" The soldier said coldly, "Where are you going? How old are you?" "I'm 45 years old this year," the man said with a panicked look. The soldier said angrily, "Bullshit! Men, take him to the secretary for verification. If he lied about his age, cut off his head and feed it to the dogs." Immediately, the two soldiers behind him rushed forward and grabbed the middle-aged man. "Spare me, sir. I don't dare to lie anymore. I'll stand in front now." The middle-aged man's face was full of fear and he repeatedly begged for mercy. Sure enough, he lied to me. Drag him down and behead him," the soldier said coldly and mercilessly. When Lu Rengue arrived at the drill ground, he saw this scene. Similar situations had happened more than once today. Under such deterrence, the commoners were much more well-behaved. There were very few people who lied about their age and secretly snuck to the back. "You guys? Which village do you live in? Why don't you go to the front and line up?" After the soldier finished showing off, he noticed Lu Rengue and the others and shouted again. Lu Rengue hurriedly went forward and said, "General, we are not locals. We came to Guan County last month to help Boss Zhou of Bianzhou escort a batch of goods. Later, we couldn't leave the city, so we have been living in Wuning village." "From another place?" The soldier rolled his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. He said again, "I seem to have heard about you guys. How many people are there in total?" Lu Rengue had a bad premonition, but he still braced himself and answered, "We have a total of 200 people. 200 people? Good. You guys just stand here. After the provincial governor finishes speaking, all of you come and find me. Do you hear me? My surname is Huang, and I'm an adjunct of the provincial governor's mansion." The soldier clapped his hands and laughed. Lu Rengue didn't know what this guy was up to, but he didn't want to cause trouble here, so he could only say, "Yes, Adjunct Huang." "That's more like it." The soldier nodded his head in satisfaction and then walked away. On the other side, a few people with noble auras appeared on the stage in front of the drill ground. Chapter 1320. Guangxing County, on the drill ground in the east of the city. Zhengzhou Provincial Governor Pan Jingyue, Chui Junchuo of the Chui clan of Qinghe, Chui Wenji of the Chui clan of Bowling, and Jing Shuwu, Chui Shuwu of the Chui clan of Xingyang. The four of them led the officials of the state government up the stage. The soldiers below quickly maintained order and calmed the commoners down. Pan Jingyue looked at the hundreds of thousands of people in front of him, and a sense of heroism rose in his heart. The speech he had carefully prepared last night floated through his mind word by word. At this moment, Pan Jingyue took a deep breath and loudly said, "The current emperor killed his brother and imprisoned his father. He obtained the position unjustly. He is tyrannical and oppressive. He is licentious and is worse than a beast. He is a completely incapable ruler." The commoners of Zhengzhou, ever since the imperial court sent Wei Xuanqing to Zhengzhou, countless good officials have been dismissed, causing the people's livelihood to wither and local law and order to fall into chaos. Last month, bandits even entered the city to burn and rob. This is the imperial court that you worship. Do you think it is worth it? Not worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it. As Pan Jinyue's voice fell, the state government soldiers on the drill ground took the lead to shout loudly. Slowly, some commoners also began to shout. After all, in the past half a month, those reactionary articles in the Zhengzhou Daily had brainwashed many commoners, making them feel that Li Er was an incapable ruler. They felt that if they wanted to live a good life, they could only rely on Pan Jinyue, this great and honest official. Those commoners who were not brainwashed, although they did not believe Pan Jinyue's nonsense, the state government soldiers were watching them from the side. They had no choice but to follow suit. Pan Jinyue was very satisfied with the enthusiastic response given by the commoners. After the commoners quieted down, he continued to shout at the top of his voice. The Chui clan has been entrenched in Zhengzhou for hundreds of years. In these hundreds of years, how many poor commoners have the Chui clan raised in Zhengzhou? How many talents have they cultivated? Chui Junchuo wholeheartedly served the people. Last year in Chang'an City, he was harmed by scoundrels and was demoted back to Zhengzhou. He, Li Shimin, was known as a wise ruler, but he appointed traitorous officials and killed the loyal. Such an incapable ruler, yet he seized the country's important weapon. As long as he is alive, the commoners of Tang will not have a good life. This official is the Zhengzhou Provincial Governor, Pan Jinyue. In order to let all of you live a good life, this official has decided to rise up today and lead all of you to overthrow the tyrant. I hereby promise that as long as Li Shimin can be overthrown, all the common people in the world will be given a share of the hereditary Yongye fields, and all the gentry will not have to pay taxes. I will take out all the treasures in the Chang, an imperial palace, and distribute them to the generals and soldiers who have rendered meritorious service. From today onwards, all the males in Zhengzhou who were above the age of 10 and below the age of 40 would have to join the army. They wouldn't be joining the army for free. Every soldier would receive a monthly salary of 200 copper coins. If they were able to kill the enemy, the reward would be even greater. Other than monetary rewards, they will also be rewarded with official positions. As for the soldiers who have rendered great service, they will be rewarded with official positions according to their discretion. After we overthrow Li Shimin, these people will become the founding ministers of the country. Being conferred the title of Marquis and Prime Minister will not be a problem. Of course, with rewards comes punishment. As for those traitors who fled and secretly colluded with the imperial court, once discovered, they were all killed without mercy. Their family members were also implicated in the crime. Therefore, fellow villagers, if you want to live a good life in the future, then let the men in your family join the army. Together, we will destroy the tyrant and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Disgraceful. Pan Jinyue's words could only be described as disgraceful. Lu Rengue frowned as he listened to what Pan Jinyue had said. If there were no guards on the drill ground, he would have rushed up to the stage and killed Pan Jinyue. Destroy the tyrant and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Destroy the tyrant and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. The soldiers on the drill ground were elated. Many common people also followed and shouted crazily. Especially the scholars and gentry who were standing at the front. They shouted the most fiercely because according to what Pan Jinyue had said, if they could overthrow Li Er, then they, the top people in Zhengzhou, would be the biggest beneficiaries. The gentry did not need to pay taxes. The country had just been established, so there would be many vacancies. The scholars and gentry would undoubtedly have the greatest opportunity. After a full quarter of an hour, the drill ground finally quieted down. Pan Jinyue's eyes darkened as he said, "As for the old, weak, women, and children, although you cannot participate in the war, the logistics of the army, such as cooking, transporting rations, and tailoring, will be your responsibility in the future. Where is the provincial governor's commandant Shui Quan?" A middle-aged soldier stepped out from the crowd and cupped his fist. "This general is here," Pan Jinyue ordered. "These men of suitable age will all be handed over to you. From today onwards, everything will follow the rules of the military camp and manage them. Now, send someone to record their names and addresses and assign them to various camps. Give them half a day to go home and pack up. Before the sky turns dark in the afternoon, they must all report to the military camp. Those who do not arrive in time will be executed immediately. This general receives the order." Shui Quan cupped his fists and said loudly. Buzz. The people below the stage immediately became a little restless. Many of them had their sons conscripted to the state capital to serve as soldiers. The men standing in the front left were usually the pillars of their families. The women all panicked. Pan Jinyue was conscripting not only their sons, but also their husbands. Ancient people married early. Their sons were in their teens and their fathers were in their 30s. "What are you making so much noise for? Everyone be quiet. Whoever makes any more noise will be thrown into prison." Shui Quan saw the situation and let out a loud roar. His voice reverberated throughout the drill ground. The thousands of soldiers from the state capital quickly scattered into the crowd of commoners and arrested a few dozen who were the fiercest. The rest of the commoners immediately quieted down. "Generals of all camps, listen to my order. Bring your men and horses and register these men. Whichever camp they are registered in, that will be where they will be placed in the end. Before the sky turns dark today, all generals of all camps must report all the deserters. Tomorrow I will send people to arrest them." Shui Quan ordered loudly. This general receives the order. A few dozen soldiers below the drill ground shouted in unison. F***ck. Motherf***ker, the thing that I was most worried about still happened. This is great. I have to serve the rebel army. Lu Rengue felt a little bitter. When he came, he had this worry. After all, according to the information that Yi Fashion received, the Cui family would be holding a pledge ceremony today. Therefore, he estimated that if he went, he would be kept as a strong man. But could he not go? Of course not. If he did not go, he could only hide in the tunnel. After all, Guangxing County was only so big. There was nowhere else to hide. However, if so many of them suddenly disappeared, it would definitely arouse suspicion. When the time came, the soldiers of the provincial governor's office would search inside and out of their rented residence. It would be very easy for them to find the secret passage under the house. Not only would they be arrested, but Wei Zheng, Yi Minglei, Li Yu, and Yi Fashion would also be implicated. Therefore, Lu Rengue and his 200 men knew that there was a tiger in the mountain, but they still chose to go there. "All of you will follow me from now on. At this moment, the Zhengzhou provincial governor's office's army that Lu Rengui met earlier came over and said to him, "Yes, Adjunct Huang, thank you so much for your support." After hesitating for a moment, Lu Rengui clenched his teeth and pretended to be touched. "Haha, don't worry. Follow me and work hard. When you have enough merits in the future, I will naturally let you go back to Bianzhou. Don't think about escaping, because once you are caught, the consequences are not something that you can bear." Adjunct Huang patted Lu Rengui's shoulder and smiled meaningfully. His full name was Huang Qing. Now that Pan Zhenyue had raised the flag of rebellion as an adjunct of the provincial governor's office, he naturally wanted to follow behind and make contributions. Lu Rengui and his men were all strong men, and they seemed to have good combat strength. If these people were placed under his command, they would definitely help him make a lot of contributions. Therefore, he took advantage of the fact that the other officers were not paying attention to him and came to snatch them away. Yes, Adjunct Huang is right. I understand. People under the eaves had to bow their heads. Lu Rengui completely acted like a grandson. Huang Qing nodded with satisfaction and said, "Good. What's your name?" Adjunct Huang, my name is Rendaniu. Good. Rendaniu, you will help me take care of these people around you in the future. Now, take them to my adjunct officer to register. After registration, go back and pack some luggage and come to the barracks. Don't run away or be late, understand? Huang Qing said with a serious face. The reason why he chose Lu Rengui to be the small leader of this team was probably because he thought Lu Rengui looked more fierce. When Lu Rengui heard that Huang Qing did not scatter his men into the barracks, he was immediately happy. As for whether he was the leader or not, he did not care. Yes. Thank you for your guidance, Adjunct Huang. I will kill the enemy well in the future and repay Adjunct Huang. Lu Rengui had turned into a bootlicker at this moment, nodding and bowing with joy. At this time, the joy on his face was somewhat real. Good. Go quickly. Adjunct Lu, this is bad. Are we betraying the country and defecting to the enemy? When the army of the imperial court arrives, what are we going to do? After registration, Lu Rengui and his men hurried to Wuning Square in the south of the city. On the way, Feng Wu said with a sad face, "What do you mean what to do? How do I know what to do? We can only take one step at a time." Okay, don't cry. Let's go back and ask Wei Zhuqing later. He has a lot of ideas. Maybe he can find a way. Lu Rengui waved his hand impatiently and said gloomily, "Oh, yes. Let's go and ask Wei Zhuqing. Hurry, let's go back." When Feng Wu heard this, his expression immediately changed and he quickened his pace. Squeak! Everyone returned to the rented house. Old Feng took the lead and jumped into the dry well in the courtyard. Wei Zhuqing, this is bad. This is bad. Adjunct Lu and I have joined the enemy. P.S. Recently, the subscriptions and ticket sales have not been very good. It's too bad to look at. I almost don't have the motivation to continue writing. Please support the original version and give the swordsman more motivation to continue writing. The swordsman will definitely update more to repay everyone. Chapter 1321. Speaking of which, Wei Zheng was quite pitiful recently. A while ago, he could still stay in the underground tunnel during the day and return to the surface at night. However, in recent days, the situation in the city had become more and more tense. He had to stay in the underground tunnel 24 hours a day, living a life without seeing the light of day. It was really depressing. What was worse was that Yi Fashion, Li Yu, and Yi Minglei's family also stayed in the underground tunnel yesterday. Wei Jing suddenly felt that the air down there was more suffocating. At this moment, Wei Jing felt a little dizzy. This old man was short of oxygen. Suddenly, he heard Feng Wu yelling at the entrance of the underground tunnel, which was the dry well in the yard. Wei Zheng was shocked at first, then he was furious. He walked to the well angrily and said righteously, "How dare you? You are greatly indebted to the country. How can you betray the country and join the enemy?" When he heard that Feng Wu had betrayed the country, the first thing that came to his mind was not to run for his life, but to persuade Feng Wu to change his ways. Lu Rengue, who was still on the surface, couldn't help but cover his face when he heard the terrible conversation. It was really shameful to have such a one-track mind as a subordinate. Helplessly, in order to prevent Feng Wu from making things worse, he had to quickly walk to the well and jump into it. Left Minister Wei, don't misunderstand. Don't listen to old Feng's nonsense. I will tell you the whole story. Before Feng Wu could continue, Lu Rengue came over and interrupted him. If old Feng was allowed to continue, wouldn't Wei Jing treat his allies as his enemies? You? Are you Army Officer Lu? Wei Zheng's face was filled with shock because the person in front of him had a full beard and a hideous scar on his face. It was truly frightening. However, he still recognized Lu Rengue's voice and asked in surprise. Well, yes, I am. I was worried that Registrar Wang would recognize me, so I disguised myself. Only then did Lu Rengue remember that his current face had been processed, so he quickly explained. Ha ha! Xiao Yue walked over and looked at him from head to toe. She couldn't help but laugh. Brother Lu, you don't look like a soldier at all. You look like a bandit. Ha ha, ha ha. Old Feng couldn't hold back his laughter and laughed out loud. Lu Rengue turned his head and stared at Old Feng. Old Feng was scared and covered his mouth. Lu Rengue glared at Old Feng and then turned to look at Wei Jing. He told Wei Jing everything that happened in the drill ground and how they were forced to join Huang Qing's force. Big Brother Lu, wouldn't you all be in danger if your identities are exposed? Yi Fashion, who also lived in the tunnel, asked worriedly after hearing Lu Rengue's explanation. Lu Rengue gave a relaxed smile and said, Brother Yi, don't worry. Although the names we use are fake, the documents we carry are all signed by our provincial governor personally. No one will be able to see any flaws. Ancient travel permits and customs documents were similar to modern travel permits, not tourist visas. In different dynasties they had different names. In the Han and Tang dynasties, they were called Guosuo. In the Yuan dynasty, they were called Wenyin. In the Ming dynasty, they were called Lu. According to the ancient laws, residents who went out for business, travel, or visit relatives needed to check the pass. If they didn't have the pass, they would be arrested and punished. Even travelers who wanted to stay in hotels in other places needed to check the pass. During the Tang dynasty, the application process was very complicated. First of all, the applicant had to find a good guarantor and explain the purpose and time limit of the trip to the county government. After the county government received the application, they had to examine the applicant. Those who had not completed their term of service or had committed a crime were not allowed to apply for a transfer. After the county government checked and approved the application, it would be sent to the prefectural government for approval. After the prefectural government verified the application, the applicant could be granted the pass. Lu Rengue and his men lied that they were helping a boss in Bianzhou transport goods to Guanqing County. Naturally, they had to show their pass. But they were backed by the Bianzhou provincial governor's manor. They had already prepared fake passes and identities before they came. How could the officials in Guanqing County find out? The problem now is, if we work for Pan Jingyue, won't we be helping the evildoer? What's more, Pan Jingyue might lead his troops to attack Luoyang tomorrow. Do we really have to help him attack the city? Lu Rengue looked at Wei Jing worriedly and said, Ha 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 ha. God bless Tang. God bless Tang. To everyone's surprise, Wei Jing suddenly threw his head back and roared with laughter, completely out of character. Wei Zhuqing? Wei Zhuqing? Are you okay? Lu Rengue thought that Wei Jing had lost his mind after hearing the bad news. He quickly shook Wei Jing's arm, trying to wake him up. Ha ha. I'm fine. I'm fine. Wei Zheng looked at Lu Rengui with joy and said, Adjunct Lu, now it's time for you to serve the imperial court and Tang. Now that County Deputy Yi is wanted by the entire city, we have one less channel to get information from the county government. But I never thought that you would have such an opportunity. This is a good opportunity, a great opportunity to sneak into the rebel army. Adjunct Lu, you and your men can not only pass on the rebel army's movements to me, but you can also unite the people in the rebel army who don't want to rebel against the imperial court. When the imperial court's army arrives, we can work together from the inside and outside. Even if the rebel army has a lot of people, they can be defeated in an instant. It had to be said that Wei Zheng was indeed a famous official. Other than being good at scolding people, he was also better than anyone in this underground tunnel in terms of strategy and calculation. A moment ago, it was still a dead end for them. But after he said that, he immediately revived the dead end. I see Wei Zhuqing is wise. I admire you. Lu Rengui's eyes lit up, but then he asked worriedly, if Pan Jinyu sends troops to attack Luoyang tomorrow, what should we do? Wei Zheng stroked his beard and suddenly smiled mysteriously. Humph. They can't attack Luoyang tomorrow. Don't worry, Adjunct Lu. Now you have to hurry up and prepare, and then report to the state capital camp directly. Remember, you must be careful and don't expose yourselves. Lu Rengui was confused. He thought, why can't Pan Jinyu attack Luoyang tomorrow? But seeing that Wei Zheng didn't want to talk about it, he didn't ask further. He clasped his fist and bowed, I'll be careful. Goodbye. After that, he left the underground tunnel with Feng Wu. Adjunct Lu, why is Wei Zhuqing so sure that Pan Jinyu can't attack Luoyang tomorrow? Old Feng climbed out of the dry well and asked with a confused face. You're asking me? Who should I ask? And Old Feng, why were you laughing just now? Lu Rengui turned to look at Feng Wu and said in an unfriendly tone. Well, Adjunct Lu, why don't I go down and stay for a while? It's cooler down there. Feng Wu swallowed his saliva and couldn't help but sneak his feet towards the mouth of the well. Get back here. Go back to your room and pack up. We're going to the camp in a while. Lu Rengui knew that now wasn't the time to make a fuss. He said in a bad mood and then left. Oh. Old Feng was relieved and quickly followed him. We're Adjunct Huang's soldiers. We're here to report. Although there was still a long time before the sky turned dark, Lu Rengui had already brought 200 men to report to the camp. The guards at the gate stopped them, and Lu Rengui explained to them. What's your name? A guard asked expressionlessly. Sir, my name is Rendaniu. These people all came with me. Lu Rengui said with a flattering smile. Another guard next to him flipped open a booklet. After searching for a moment, he said, Rendaniu, I've heard Adjunct Huang mention you guys. All of you belong to the 9th camp. Quickly go in and report to Lieutenant G of the 9th camp. Yes. Thank you. Lu Rengui cupped his fists and thanked him. Then, he led Old Feng and the others into the camp. In the early days of the Tang Dynasty, the army used the Fu army system. Based on the peasant households who used the equal field system, there were 634 military manors set up in the various Taoists, prefectures, and counties under the heavens, collectively known as the Zhechong manors. According to the size of the organization, they were divided into 3 ranks: upper, middle, and lower. The head of the manors was the Zhechong Dui, primary 4th rank. The deputy heads were the Zhua and Yu Gui Dui. Below the Dui were the Zhangjun. Under the government there were regiments, also known as battalions, with officers and captains. Under the regiments there were squads with captains. Under the squads there were squads with captains. Each battalion had 5 squads, and each squad led 3 groups. Cui Quan, who was at the pledging ceremony, was the commandant of the Zhechong house in Zhangzhou. He was the highest military officer in this camp. Greetings, Officer G. After coming to the 9th camp, Lu Rengui finally saw the captain of the 9th camp, Ji Zhongxing, a middle-aged man with a small mustache and a cunning look. Oh, you are Rendaniu? Not bad, not bad. Looks like you guys can fight. Not bad, not bad. In the future, you guys will be the 5th group of the 9th camp. You will be the commander of the 5th group. When you fight in the future, be brave. That will be good for you and good for me. Do you understand? Ji Zhongxing stood up and walked in front of Lu Rengui. He looked at him from head to toe and then shouted. Lu Rengui frowned inwardly. This Officer Ji in front of him reeked of alcohol. It was obvious that he had drunk a lot before Lu Rengui arrived. Drinking was prohibited in the army. However, this person was an officer and yet he dared to be so unscrupulous. From this, it could be seen how lax the military discipline of the Zhechong house was. Thank you, officer, for your support. This lowly one knows many rich merchants in Bianzhou. In the future, I will definitely offer you 2 jars of pure immortal drunken wine as repayment for your support. Since this fellow liked to drink, Lu Rengui naturally had to cater to his taste. As for whether the military discipline was lax or not, what did it have to do with him? He couldn't wait for the entire camp to be lax and unorganized. Chapter 1322. Good. 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 You're very good. When our army passes by Bian province in the future, you have to send your 2 jars of immortal drunken wine to me. Zhengzhou's Zhetzong Residence's camp. Lieutenant Ji of the 9th camp was immediately energized when he heard Lu Rengui mention immortal drunken wine. His eyes lit up as he looked at Lu Rengui with admiration. Although the immortal drunken wine was commonly seen in Chang'an City, it was priceless in the local counties. Generally, only high-ranking officials and wealthy families had the right to enjoy it. Therefore, Officer Ji couldn't help but be tempted by it. Of course. I only hope that Lieutenant Ji can let us take a look at it when the time comes. I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me, but I haven't seen my wife for almost 2 months after the curfew in Guan County. Lu Rengui said with a hoarse voice. This was where he was smart. If he blindly flattered Ji Zhongxing without asking for anything, it would be easy for Ji Zhongxing to feel that he had a bigger scheme in mind. Now that he made such a reasonable request, Ji Zhongxing felt that he could only flatter Ji Zhongxing because of Gun Yanji's family, but it wouldn't make things too difficult for Ji Zhongxing. Haha. Small matter, small matter. Rendaniu, I've heard about your matter from the military governor. As long as the army passes by Bian province in the future, I'll give you half a day off to visit your family. Once you've made enough contributions, the military governor will let you go back. Ji Zhongxing patted Lu Rengui's shoulder and laughed. Lu Rengui cupped his hands and said, Hee hee. Thank you, Lieutenant Ji. However, my brothers and I have changed our minds. We won't leave even if we make great contributions. We want to follow behind the provincial governor to make contributions and be conferred the title of Marquis. We hope that Lieutenant Ji can guide us in the future. Ji Zhongxing burped and then gave a thumbs up. Haha. Good. Good job. You have the same thoughts as me. Why can't we be conferred the title of Marquis and enter the imperial court? Burp. Yes. Lieutenant Ji. Lu Rengui cupped his fists in response, then left the room. Just like that, they settled down in the camp of the House of Subjugation. But when he thought of Ji Zhongxing's words, we should be leaving the city tomorrow morning, Lu Rengui couldn't help but worry. Leaving the city meant going to war, and war meant going to war with allies. This was something he didn't want to see. After all, he was only pretending to surrender, not really. Dong dong dong. The next morning, at the first glimmer of dawn, the sound of drums could be heard in the camp of the House of Surrender. Then, the soldiers of the various camps began to shout, All soldiers, get up immediately and gather at the drill ground. Those who are not there in 15 minutes will be flogged 30 times. All soldiers, get up immediately and gather at the drill ground. Those who don't arrive within a quarter of an hour will be flogged 30 times. The soldiers in the tent immediately moved when they heard the sound. Old Feng, go and wake the brothers up. Don't get beaten up later. Lu Rengue got up from the bed and quickly put on the armor that was given to him yesterday. Then, he shouted to Feng Wu, who was next to him. This was the quality of a soldier. Compared to the people who had just joined the camp, Lu Rengue's group was undoubtedly much stronger. A quarter of an hour later, at the drill ground on the east side of the camp, the 50,000 new recruits who joined yesterday and the 20,000 veterans who were in the camp before this gathered here. Of course, there were also many who came late and were being beaten at the side. Since you are in the camp, all of you have to follow the rules. Whatever the higher-ups tell you to do, you have to do it. The next time there is someone who is late, the punishment will be doubled. The House of Subjugation's Lieutenant Chui Quan stood on the podium and said with a gloomy face, "The new soldiers were hard to lead." This was within his expectations. Although he didn't expect the new soldiers to have much fighting power, as soldiers, they had to listen to orders. The 70,000 soldiers on the drill ground suddenly became silent. Chui Quan paused for a moment and then said, "Generals of the various camps, today we are going to march into Luoyang. Let all your soldiers take their weapons and dry rations and immediately leave the city. Gather with the other 2 armies and go straight to Luoyang." "Yes, Lord Lieutenant." The entire camp immediately became lively. The sounds of weapons clashing, the shouts of the generals, and the noisy footsteps entered the ears. Half an hour later, all the soldiers were ready and the army headed straight for the south gate of Guanqing County. On the way, they happened to meet the other armies that Chui Quan had mentioned. The Chui family originally had 250,000 soldiers. Yesterday, they had forcefully recruited a few middle-aged men. In total, they had 300,000 soldiers. Lu Rengue, who was advancing with the army, was secretly complaining. He thought to himself, "Didn't Wei Jing say that the battle wouldn't start yesterday? Why is the army leaving the city now?" The city gates opened and the 300,000 soldiers left the city in succession. The villagers outside the city all made way when they saw them. But at this moment the ground began to tremble. Outside the city, on both sides of the official road, countless black-armored cavalry suddenly rushed out. All of them were covered in thick armor, even their heads were covered, only revealing pairs of cold eyes. They were like killing gods from the abyss of hell, holding Modeo in their hands as they rushed towards the army that had just left the city. "Kill!" The leading cavalry raised the Modeo in his hand and roared. Immediately, the cavalry rushed over at an even faster speed. It's the Imperial Court's army. The Imperial Court's army is here. Quickly run. The Imperial Court's army is here. Quickly run." This cavalry formation was too powerful. Even from afar, one could feel the murderous aura emitted from their bodies. As for Zhengzhou's Zhechong Residence's troops, the ones who were walking in front as cannon fodder were all new recruits. When had they ever seen such a terrifying cavalry in their lives? Their survival instinct did not allow them to have the courage to raise their swords to fight. Instead, they directly ran away. Initially, Chui Junchuo's original intention was to use these new recruits, who had no combat power, as cannon fodder. After all, since ancient times, attacking a city required the sacrifice of human lives. However, Chui Junchuo did not expect that once the battle went south, the first to collapse and flee would be these new recruits with weak willpower and low military literacy. And their collapse would not only disrupt their formation, it would also greatly affect the morale of the army. Do not flee. Those who flee before battle will be killed without mercy. The generals of the various battalions were all veterans. When they saw the situation, they drew their swords from their waists and cut down a few fleeing soldiers as they roared loudly. But this did not stop the soldiers in front from fleeing. This was because the black armored cavalry brought even greater fear to them. If they were asked to fight, they would rather die. This was not an army of the human world. In the blink of an eye, the black armored cavalry had already charged into the midst of Zhe Chong Residence's army. Puff, puff, puff. When wolves entered a flock of sheep, their war horses first sent countless soldiers flying. Then, with a swing of their swords, heads fell from the sky. To the black armored cavalry, no one was a match for them. It was like chopping vegetables. They only needed to charge forward, swing their swords, and reap the lives. Spare me! Don't kill me! I don't want to rebel! Run! Run! The soldiers in front of the troops turned around and desperately ran towards the city gate. They did not want to face this group of evil spirits. Zhe Chong Residence's army was instantly thrown into chaos. Black Armored Army? This is the Black Armored Army? Lu Rengui belonged to the 9th Battalion. His position was not very close to the front. When he saw the formation of the Black Armored Cavalry, he suddenly thought of something. His face was filled with disbelief. Old Feng, tell our men to retreat in the chaos. Don't fight with the Black Armored Army. Lu Rengui pulled Feng Wu over and whispered. Yes. Old Feng replied and quickly went to pass down the order. Zhichang's commandant, Cui Quan, happened to be 30 feet away from the city gate. He sat on his warhorse and looked up. He could tell that the cavalry in front of him was the unparalleled Black Armored Army. He quickly exclaimed, Quick! Adjutant Huang, order all the soldiers to retreat immediately. Retreat into the city. Commandant, although these cavalrymen are fierce, there are at most 3,000 to 5,000 of them. We have more than 300,000 soldiers. What is there to be afraid of? Huang Qing had never left Zhengzhou in his life. He did not know that they were facing the Black Armored Army. Therefore, he was very confused by Cui Quan's order. What do you know? They are the Black Armored Army. Retreat now. Cui Quan was not stupid. He knew that Li Shimin was able to defeat Wang Shichong's army of 100,000 with his 3,500 Black Armored Army. Even though he had 300,000 soldiers with him now, they were just small fries. The strength of these 300,000 soldiers was far inferior to Wang Shichong's army. How could they defeat the Black Armored Army? Therefore, after Cui Quan explained, he turned his horse around and galloped back into the city. Black Armored Army. They are the Black Armored Army. Huang Cheng's heart skipped a beat. Although he had never seen the Black Armored Army with his own eyes, how could he not have heard of them? At this moment, he was scared out of his wits. How would he dare to fight them? He quickly shouted at the messenger, Retreat! And took the lead to escape. Retreat! Retreat! The Zhe Residence's army outside the city gate changed from the rear to the front and ran into the city. Not good. The city gate is about to close. Brothers, quick! When they were about 4 to 5 feet away from the city gate, Lu Rengui saw 2 soldiers starting to push the gate open. He quickly shouted at his brothers. Bang! 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 More than 200 men used all their strength and ran towards the city gate. At the last moment, they finally managed to rush into the city before the gate closed. The 1,000 soldiers who had not entered the city in time put down their weapons and knelt down to surrender when they saw that the city gate was closed. Chapter 13:23. As soon as they left the city gates, they were chased back. Cui Quan ran back to the provincial governor's manor and reported the situation outside the city to Pan Jinyue. Pan Jinyue, Cui Junchuo, Jingshuo, and Cui Wenji were drinking tea and discussing matters in the front hall of the provincial governor's manor. Although the 4 powers had formed an alliance, the follow-up plans still needed to be discussed. Hearing the shocking news, everyone in the front hall could not sit still. What? There are 3,000 black armored troops outside the city? How is that possible? Why would the black armored troops come to Zhengzhou? Could it be that Chang knows that we have mobilized? The old man next to Cui Junchuo, Jing Shuwu, the great-grandfather of the Jing family, exclaimed in surprise. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Guanqing County has been sealed for more than a month. Not even a bird has flown out, let alone a person. How could Chang have received the news? Cui Junchuo's face was as white as a sheet of paper as he spoke with a trembling voice. Since Chang doesn't know that we have mobilized, why would Li Shimin send the black armored troops to Zhengzhou? Junchuo, when you persuaded our Jing family to join you, you promised me that we would be able to take down Luoyang before the imperial court could react. What about now? Jing Shuwu said with an unfriendly expression. Cui Junchuo was instantly speechless. Cui Wenji could not stand it anymore, so he said, all right. Since it has already happened, what's the point of arguing about it? Now that our three families are in the same boat, once we are caught by the imperial court, none of us will be spared. Instead of arguing here, why don't we think of a plan to retreat? Cui Junchuo nodded. He looked at Jing Shuwu and said, Wenji is right. Shuwu, it was indeed this old man who didn't consider this matter thoroughly. But the urgent matter at hand is that we should work together to defeat the enemy. Jing Shuwu said with a dissatisfied expression, work together to retreat? What can we use to retreat? The black armored troops' combat power is unparalleled. How can we defend against them with just those newly recruited soldiers? Even if we are lucky enough to win, we will definitely suffer heavy casualties. When the time comes, how can we attack Luoyang with these defeated soldiers? A trace of anger flashed across Cui Junchuo's eyes as she said, the urgent matter at hand is to solve the problem, not to blame each other. If the Cui family is defeated, your Jing family can forget about getting any benefits. Shu Wu, if you really want to defeat the enemy, then send out your Cui family's 30,000 secret guards as well. Our three families together have a total of 80,000 secret guards. Only then can we have the power to fight against the imperial court. Cui Junchuo, what do you mean? Are you blaming my Jing family for not doing our best? Aren't the provisions and armors of 300,000 soldiers supported by our Jing family? If you're thinking about my Jing family's shadow guards, then why are your Cui family's shadow guards cowering in the back and not daring to make a move? Everyone is well aware of what you're planning. Stop pretending to be selfless. Hearing the hidden meaning in Cui Junchuo's words, Jing Shuwu was instantly enraged. His Jing family had been living well in Guan City, but after Cui Junchuo returned to Zhengzhou, the Jing family was dragged into this mess. Now, if things went wrong, the entire Jing family would be wiped out. How could Jing Shuwu not be angry? Three Grand Dukes, we can't go through the south gate. Can we go to the other gates? Pan Jinhua interrupted. Yes. Then let's go to the east gate. They only have 3,000 cavalrymen. It's impossible for them to set up an ambush at every gate. Cui Junchuo suppressed her anger and ordered. When the other two old men heard this, they did not express any objections. Seeing this, Cui Quan bowed and said, Yes, Grand Duke. This general will lead the army out of the east gate and take a detour to attack Luoyang. With that, he cupped his fists and turned to leave. He was truly convinced by the quarrel between the three old men in the room. At this time, he felt a trace of regret for choosing to rebel with Pan Jinhua. The aristocratic families were already rotten. Half an hour later, Cui Quan reorganized the army and went out of the east gate of Guan City. However, as soon as he went out of the gate, he was stunned. He saw at least tens of thousands of soldiers waiting outside the city. Cui Quan, where are you? Quickly get off your horse and surrender. At this time, in the army camp outside the city, an old general came out and shouted at the army outside the city gate. So it's the pacifier. Sir, you are really fast. Cui Quan came out and was shocked when he saw the person. The person opposite him was the pacifier of Hunan province. Ren Kan Chui Quan's heart sank. Ren Kan laughed and said, He Chui Quan, His Majesty already knows that you want to rebel. He ordered this old man to lead the troops of 10 provinces to encircle and suppress you. Now that things have come to this, if you can put down your weapons and turn to the light, perhaps His Majesty will spare your lives. If you continue to follow behind the Chui family and do treacherous things, only death will await you. This official hopes that you will think carefully. As soon as these words were spoken, the soldiers in Zhengzhou were immediately thrown into chaos. The soldiers all panicked. Since ancient times, the common people had a natural fear of the imperial court. Now that they heard that the imperial court already knew that they were going to rebel and even sent a large army to encircle them, these people, especially the new recruits, immediately wanted to kneel down and surrender. Silence. Chui Quan saw that the morale of the army was in chaos and quickly shouted, Since you have joined the camp of the House of Subjugation, you have already betrayed the imperial court. If you fall into the hands of the imperial court, only death will await you. What you can do now is to resist with the Chui family to the end. After that, he looked at Ren Kan and said angrily, The pacifier really has a good tongue. With just a few words, you have disturbed the morale of my army. If you have the guts, let's fight face to face. Ren Kan waved his hand and said, Ha, this official is old and not good at fighting and killing. If Commandant Chui wants to lead the army into battle, this official's 100,000 soldiers are more than welcome to join. Kill. As soon as he finished speaking, the 100,000 soldiers behind Ren Kan shouted, Kill, in unison. Their voices shook the sky and their momentum was like a rainbow. Chui Quan's expression changed. After a long silence, he waved his hand and said, Retreat. Return to the city. Adjunct Huang, lead 50,000 soldiers and guard the east gate. Yes. Chui Quan did not dare to take the risk. The soldiers led by Ren Kan were all seasoned soldiers. If they fought face to face, his 300,000 soldiers might not be able to win. He decided to send someone to the provincial governor's office to report the situation here. At the same time, he planned to lead the army to the west gate. There were people at the south and east gates, but there should not be anyone at the west gate, right? The gate opened and Chui Quan led the army out. However, the black mass of the army that greeted him made him feel a sense of despair. Where is Chui Quan? Come out and answer me. An old general shouted at Chui Quan. Who are you? Chui Quan said coldly as he rode out. I am the provincial governor of Sui province, Wang Yu. I am here under the imperial order to encircle you rebels. Chui Quan, you are greatly favored by the emperor. You are the commandant of a province, but instead of serving the imperial court, you have joined the rebels. I advise you to abandon the darkness and join the light before it is too late to regret. Wang Yu shouted. Wang Yu? Chui Quan's heart sank. Sui province was not far from Zhengzhou, but it was definitely not close. It would take at least 4 to 5 days to rush the army. However, Wang Yu was able to lead the army here. This meant that the imperial court had long been on guard against the Chui family's rebellion. At this moment, Chui Quan's heart sank completely. Wang Yu, does your Wang family of Taiyuan really want to go against the 3 of us? Chui Quan said unwillingly. He could not understand why the Wang family would be willing to be a dog of the imperial court when they were all from the same family. Wang Yu said indifferently, Go against? This official's honor and disgrace were all bestowed by His Majesty. Since you want to rebel, you are going against me, Wang Yu. There's nothing to say. Chui Quan said in exasperation, Do you really think that you can stop me with just your army of tens of thousands? Then you can try, Commandant Chui. Wang Yui waved the sword in his hand and said with a murderous aura. Although he looked calm, he was actually panicking. He only had 20,000 some soldiers behind him. If they really fought, they were no match for Cui Quan's group. Cui Quan frowned, unable to understand where Wang Yu's confidence came from. He stretched out his hand and said, "All troops attack. Every person killed will be rewarded with 5 strings of cash. Those who refuse to fight will be killed without mercy. Charge! Kill!" At the eastern gate, Cui Quan had left 50,000 new soldiers behind to defend the city. Now, he had 250,000 soldiers under his command. Most of them were veterans, and their military training was quite good. The moment Cui Quan gave the order, the 3 armies charged at Wang Yu's army. Kill! The rebels might have the advantage in numbers, but our reinforcements will be here soon. Wang Yu braced himself and roared. The 2 armies quickly clashed. As the provincial governor of a province and the current head of the Wang family of Taiyuan, Wang Yu naturally would not personally charge into the fray. He was at the rear holding the fort. After seeing the situation on the battlefield, his face immediately darkened. In this situation, if reinforcements didn't arrive in half an hour, the 20,000-man army he brought with him would soon be wiped out. Bang! 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 "Provincial Governor Wang, I'm here to help you." Just as Wang Yu was feeling anxious, a cloud of dust suddenly rose from the south. Following that, a black mass of soldiers charged out of the dust. The old general in the lead roared. "Provincial Governor Zhao?" Wang Yu looked over and was instantly overjoyed. He hurriedly roared, "The provincial governor of Bianzhou has led his army to reinforce us. All soldiers, listen up. Attack Guangqing County and capture the rebels. Kill!" Wang Yu's army's morale was high, but Cui Quan's army was panicking. "Retreat! Retreat into the city and defend the city gate." Cui Quan looked toward the east and estimated that there were at least 70,000–80,000 reinforcements. At this point, the only 3 city gates of Guangqing County were blocked by the imperial court army. Cui Junchuo's plan to attack Luoyang was officially declared a failure. Chapter 1324. Guangqing County was surrounded on 3 sides, and Cui Quan's army had lost 2 battles, losing over 6,000 soldiers. Cui Quan left behind 150,000 soldiers to guard the 3 city gates, while the rest stayed within the city to maintain order. Arriving at the provincial governor's manor, Cui Quan told Cui Junchuo and the rest about the situation outside the city. The few of them were shocked, and Cui Junchuo's face was as white as paper. "How is that possible? According to what you said, there are over 100,000 soldiers outside the city, and there are even soldiers that Wang Yu brought from Sui province. Doesn't that mean that the imperial court already knew that we were going to attack? But Guangqing County had sealed the city gates for over a month, so how did the news get out?" Jing Shua's face was dejected as he muttered, "It's over. It's all over. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have listened to your slanderous words. Now that Guangqing County is surrounded by the army, what should we do?" Cui Junchuo looked at Jing Shua coldly and opened his mouth, but he did not say anything. At this time, he did not have the mood to argue. Cui Wenji was the oldest out of the 3, but because he took good care of himself, his body was the best. He stroked his beard and pondered for a moment before saying, "Now is not the time of life and death. There are only 100,000 soldiers outside the city, and we have 300,000. Furthermore, our Cui family and Xingyang family have not gone all out, and we can still mobilize 50,000 hidden guards and thousands of death warriors. Furthermore, our consecrators have not made a move, and with their martial arts, they can fight against 100. When the time comes, we can attack from the inside and outside, and we can definitely kill our way out. But at that time, Li Shimin will definitely not let us go. But our families can go to the Turks or live in seclusion in Southeast Asia, and when the time is right, we can return to the Central Plains." Hearing that, Cui Junchuo and Jing Shua's eyes lit up, and Jing Shua hurriedly said, "Then in Brother Cui's opinion, what should we do now?" Cui Wenji muttered. The two of us will send a messenger pigeon to mobilize the hidden guards outside, and let them rush to Zhengzhou as soon as possible. When the time comes, we will wait for the opportunity to make a move. During this time, we just need to be careful of the army outside the city. Our army might not be able to defeat them outside, but we can defend the city. With the city walls as our backing, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers outside won't be able to break into the city. Yes. Let's defend the city first. When the reinforcements arrive, we'll launch a pincer attack and kill our way out. Didn't they recruit a bunch of new soldiers? Let them guard the city gates. Even if the imperial court's army attacks the city, the casualties won't be our people. In the future, with the strength of our clans, where can't we dominate? Jing Shuwu nodded as he listened. Cui Junchuo also felt that it was reasonable. He turned to look at Pan Jinyue and ordered, Jinyue, send the new army to defend the city. The old soldiers will supervise from the side and enforce martial law in the city. Strictly forbid the citizens from gathering and causing trouble. Let all the retainers of the Cui residents come to the various commoners' square regularly to give lectures to pacify the citizens and encourage them to help us defend the city. Increase the patrols and prevent anyone from inciting the people to defect to the imperial court. Yes, Taigong. I'll make the arrangements right away. Pan Jinyue cupped his hands and left with Cui Quan. Hey! Join the army. As expected, the army didn't attack Luoyang today. Wei Zhuqing is really good at foresight. Tell me, how did he know that the black armored army and the pacifier would lead the army here today? Does Wei Zhuqing, that old man, know how to calculate? Guangqing County, East City Gate. Lu Rengue and his group were standing on top of the city walls to defend the city. Seeing that there were no outsiders around, Old Feng whispered excitedly. Lu Rengue faintly said, Miss Li, you must have used the telegraph to send a message to Chang on that day. The Black Armored Army's combat power is unparalleled, and their speed is astonishing. From Chang'an to Zhengzhou they can reach there in less than 2 days. Minister Wei must have calculated the time in private. As for the pacifier, it shouldn't be hard for him to gather 100,000 soldiers in 2 days. I thought Wei Zhuqing was an old immortal who could foresee things. Feng Wu scratched his head and muttered, Sai, join the army. I just heard that Cui Quan's army met Wang Yu, the provincial governor of Suizhou, and our provincial governor's army at the West City Gate. After a bloody battle, Cui Quan left behind 6,000 corpses and fled back into the city. Wang Yu? Suizhou is more than 400 miles away from Zhengzhou. Why would he appear in Zhengzhou now? Lu Rengue was puzzled. After a moment of silence, he said, Guangqing County is surrounded by Guangqing County. The Cui family can either go out of the city and fight a bloody way out, or stay in the city and wait for the reinforcements of the Cui family of Bowling and the Jing family of Xingyang. But in my opinion, the possibility of them choosing the latter is higher. So before their reinforcements arrive, we must find a way to get in touch with the army outside the city. Otherwise, the Cui family may really escape this time. I'll find a way to go back tonight and discuss with Wei Zhuqing. You help me cover it up. Feng Wu nodded and said, Don't worry, join the army. It's cold at night. I don't think anyone will come to patrol. Just go. Outside the city. The black armored troops and the provincial government's army had already set up their tents and started cooking. Apparently, they were planning to set up camp outside the city. South of the city, in the central tent. General Duan, now that Guangqing County is surrounded by us from 3 sides, the rebels will not be able to escape even if they have wings. When do you plan to attack the city? Ren Can also came to the central tent of the black armored troop. At this time, he looked at Duan Zhishuan and asked. Even though he was a pacifying ambassador, he did not dare to be negligent in front of Duan Zhishuan. Duan Jishuan was also involved in the Black Tortoise Gate incident. He was a real hero. Duan Jishuan picked up the teacup and took a sip. He then pondered for a moment and said, "We only have 150,000 soldiers. Although we are not afraid of the Chui family's army in the open, if we want to attack the city with this small number of people, it is no different from wishful thinking. Moreover, the black armored troops are only good at fighting in the open. They are not good at attacking the city. So, let's just surround the city first. In 2 days, General Li's army will arrive. At that time, we will discuss attacking the city." "That's the best." Ren Kan and Wang Yu both nodded. It was a moonless night. On the other hand, Guangxing County's Qing Tower was filled with torches. Although under normal circumstances, no one would attack the city at night, there were still many soldiers guarding the tower. Lu Rengui used the excuse of going to the toilet to sneak away. Along the way, he avoided the patrolling soldiers and finally came to the house in Wuning Lane. "Is Lu Rengui back?" At this time, Wei Zheng and the others were still awake. Wei Zheng asked softly when he heard some movement from the well. "It's me. It's me," Lu Rengui answered and quickly walked over. At this time, a weak candlelight was lit in the tunnel. Lu Rengui looked at everyone excitedly and said, "Good news! Good news! In a few more days, you won't have to hide in this tunnel anymore." Li Yu's eyes lit up when she heard that. She asked, "Brother Lu, are the reinforcements here?" Girls loved to be clean. Ever since she moved into this tunnel, she had not taken a bath for a few days. She was very uncomfortable. Moreover, the tunnel was not very ventilated. With so many people living here, the smell was naturally unpleasant. She had had enough of this place. Lu Rengui looked at little Yu with admiration and said, "Miss Li Yu is right. The reinforcements sent by the imperial court have arrived. 3,000 black armored troops, 130,000 soldiers from the Hunan province pacifier, and 20,000 soldiers from the provincial governor of Sui province, Wang Yu, have surrounded Guangxing County. When the army outside the city breaks into the city, you will be saved." "That's great. That's great. Finally, the army is here. We can finally see the light of day again." Little Yu cheered when she heard that. Wei Jing shook his head and said, "It's too early to say that. The army outside the city will not be able to break into the city. We have to wait for the reinforcements to arrive." "Reinforcements? How can Wei Zhuqing be so sure that there will be reinforcements?" Lu Rengui was puzzled. They had returned after sending the information to the imperial court at Songyue Temple. As for how the imperial court had arranged it, they had no idea. Wei Jing smiled and said, "Duan Jishuan's black armored troops are very mobile and fast. They are very suitable to be the vanguard. Since His Majesty has sent the black armored troops to be the vanguard, he will definitely send reinforcements. Let's wait." Wang Yu's appearance means that His Majesty has already taken precautions against the Chui family. In this battle, the army sent by the imperial court cannot be underestimated. The Chui family cannot win. Wei Zhuqing is right. Lu Rengui nodded thoughtfully. Little Yu said, "Wei Zhuqing, since we have reinforcements behind us, do you think the Chui family will have reinforcements outside the city?" Wei Zheng's eyes darkened when he heard that. After a while, he looked at Lu Rengui and said, "You have to ask Lu Rengui this question." Lu Rengui quickly cupped his hands and said, "I think the Chui family will definitely have reinforcements." "Why do you say so?" "Wei Zhuqing, as far as I know, the 300,000 soldiers in the city, other than the young men recruited in the past few months, the rest are the state's soldiers and the secret guards raised by the Chui family. The Chui family of Bowling and the Jing family of Xingyang did not send out a single soldier. Therefore, I guess that they must have some forces outside the city that they can mobilize, and today they chose to guard the city instead of going out to fight. This confirms my guess." Lu Rengui cupped his hands and replied, The atmosphere in the tunnel became solemn again. Wei Jing stroked his beard and said in a deep voice, "Now, it depends on which side's reinforcements arrive first. If the Chui family's reinforcements arrive first, they will definitely go out to patrol the city. The situation will not be good if they are attacked from both sides." Chapter 13:25. Brother Lu, where are the reinforcements of the Jing family and the Chui family? Are they far from Guanxing? Inside the tunnel of Lu Rengui's rented house in Wanning Square, Little Yuer asked after listening to Wei Zheng's analysis. Lu Rengui shook his head and said, "I don't know. Logically speaking, the Chui family's army should be in Dingzhou, and the Jing family's army should be in Guanxing. But since they decided to betray the imperial court with the Chui family of Qinghe, they must have set up an ambush in a county adjacent to Zhengzhou. We just don't know which county they are in." Yi Fashion frowned and said, "According to the time, the imperial court's army will need at least 2 more days to reach Guan City. As for the Zheng and Chui families' reinforcements, if Brother Lu's analysis is correct and they are hiding in a county near Zhengzhou, then their reinforcements will definitely reach Guan City first. Then what should we do?" Little Yuer was anxious. Lu Rengui suddenly asked, "I wonder if the imperial court will bring along a telegraph machine with them when they send reinforcements?" Little Yuer's eyes lit up and said, "We'll know if we try. The army must be closer to us than we are to Chang'an. Maybe we can send a message without going to Songyue Pagoda." "That's right. Then Miss Liu, try using the telegraph machine." "No. Using the telegraph machine underground will be very difficult to send messages. We should at least go to the surface." Liu shook her head. Lu Rengui thought for a while and said, "The Chui family and the government are busy dealing with the army outside the city. They shouldn't be able to send people to patrol the houses. Also, Su Fangzheng of Wanning Square knows that we have joined the army, so there must be no one in the house. Once the gate is locked, normal people won't be able to break in. So why don't you all disguise yourselves and stay in the backyard? But don't light candles at night and don't go out during the day." Wei Jing frowned and said, "No. If we all stay there, there will be too many targets. Once someone breaks in, we won't even be able to hide. Let Miss Liu stay there alone. She needs to keep in touch with the army. Also, if someone breaks in, she can hide easily." Although he also wanted to stay there, he didn't want to give himself away at such a crucial moment. "Yes, indeed, we should focus on the big picture." Yi Minglei nodded in agreement. Seeing this, Lu Rengui could only say, "Then, Miss Liu, you can bring your telegraph machine to the attic in the backyard. If the imperial court or the reinforcements send a telegram, you will know in time." Little Fishy pouted and shook her head. "No, no, no. I'm alone. I'm not even allowed to light up at night. How would I dare to stay? Why don't you let Auntie Yi stay with me?" She did want Yi Fashion to go up, but this was such a big backyard. How could a man and a woman live together? Therefore, Liu thought about it seriously and decided to invite Yi Minglei's wife to accompany her. Madame Yi looked at Yi Minglei and saw him nod. She smiled and said, "All right then. Since that's the case, I'll go up and stay with Miss Liu for a few days." After that, Liu, Madame Yi, and Lu Rengui took the telegraph and climbed to the ground. Then, the 3 of them walked towards the backyard. Beep beep beep. 15 minutes later, in the attic in the backyard, there was a soft beep sound. In the house, Liu used the weak candlelight to control the telegraph machine to send out a message. In order to prevent the candlelight from leaking out, she was surrounded by a screen. "All right. I've sent it out. Let's see if anyone can receive and reply to me." After a while, Liu clapped her hands and said. Lu Rengui nodded and said, "Then we'll wait." Liu took the opportunity to ask, "Brother Lu, how are you doing in the military camp? Did anyone from the higher-ups make things difficult for you?" Lu Rengui shook his head and smiled. "No. The lieutenant in our camp is a drunkard. I promised him 2 jars of immortal drunken wine. He treats me like a brother. Why would he make things difficult for me? Immortal drunken wine? Where can we get immortal drunken wine at this time? If I was in Chang'an, I could get some for Brother Lu. But now, I'm in charge of the city. Little Fishy frowned and said in a dilemma. Lu Rengue smiled. It's fine. I guess that lieutenant won't have the fortune to drink a sip of immortal drunken wine in his life. Hundreds of miles away, on an empty field, there were countless tents of various sizes. The campfire in the camp was brightly lit. There were also groups of soldiers patrolling the camp. Beep, beep, beep. Did Little Fishy send a message? Meng Wenhao reacted immediately. He quickly took out a pen and paper and laid on the ground to record. After a while, the beep stopped. Iron Egg asked curiously, Wenhao, what did the message say? To prevent more people from knowing about the telegraph machine, he, Meng Wenhao, and Pang Feiji stayed in a tent alone. At this time, Meng Wenhao had already translated the code. He looked up and said, Nothing. This is just a test code sent by Little Fishy. She's not sure if I can receive her message. Wenhao, you should reply quickly. Iron Egg said hurriedly. Okay. Meng Wenhao nodded and pressed the handle of the telegraph machine to reply the message. Beep, beep, beep. On the other side, Little Fishy was chatting with Lu Rengue about the battle during the day. Suddenly, the telegraph machine rang. It's here. There's a reply. Little Fishy exclaimed and quickly recorded the message. After a while, she stood up and said, Brother Lu, it's the reinforcements sent by the Imperial Court. They are now 30 miles east of Luoyang in the wilderness. They should be about 100 miles away from us. The general manager this time is Duke Wei Li Jing. Lu Rengue heard and frowned. Duke Wei is leading the army? 100 miles. If that's the case, it's hard to say who will be the first to arrive. How about this, Miss Li Yu, you send the situation of Guangqing County and the deployment of the troop. The decision will be up to General Manager Li. Okay. Li Yu thought for a while and started to send the message. She had a preliminary understanding of the situation in Guangqing County from the conversation with Lu Rengue. Outside Luoyang Tang Army Camp. This time there was a very long beep 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 beep. Meng Wenhao's hands were almost sore from recording the code. After a full 15 minutes, the telegraph machine finally stopped beeping. Next was the translation. Fortunately, Meng Wenhao had already memorized the code book, so the translation didn't take much time. Wenhao, how is it? How's the situation in Guangqing County? Iron Egg saw Meng Wenhao's work and quickly came over to ask. Meng Wenhao frowned. It's a long story, and the military situation is urgent. Let's meet General Manager Li together and report to him as soon as possible. Okay. After a while, Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao came to the command tent. After reporting, they met Li Jing. Qin Xiong, Cheng Yaojin, and Niu Jindao were also in the tent. They were probably having a meeting. Greetings, General Manager Li and the generals. Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao bowed. Li Jing nodded and said, There's no need to be polite. Meng Wenhao, I heard that you have urgent military matters to discuss with me? Yes. General Manager Li, this is the information that was just sent from Guangqing County. Meng Wenhao took out the translated message and raised it above his head as he replied. Let me take a look. Li Jing's expression changed as he walked down and took the message from Meng Wenhao. The other 3 old generals in the tent also cast their gazes on Li Jing. Medicine Master, what is written on it? Why are you looking at it for so long? A moment later, Cheng Yaojin asked impatiently. Li Jing passed the message to Cheng Yaojin and said, The Chui family in Guangqing County has gathered 300,000 troops and is preparing to attack Luoyang. Luckily, the Black Armored Army, Ren Kan, and Wang Yu's 150,000 troops arrived in time and killed the rebels back into the city. However, According to the Bian province army hidden in the city, the Chui family of Bowling and the Jing family of Xinjiang definitely have reinforcements outside the city. If we don't want the Chui family to escape, then we have to reach Guanqing before the reinforcements arrive. Qin Xiong stroked his beard and said, "Since that's the case, then let's march through the night." Li Jing thought for a moment and looked at Iron Egg and Meng Wenhao. "Iron Egg, you and Wenhao go up to the Celestial Lamp and send information to Guanqing. Say that we will definitely reach Guanqing before dark tomorrow. Then send a message to Chang and inform His Majesty about the situation here. Also say that we plan to change the route of the army and merge the three armies into one to head straight for Guanqing." Li Er had told him before he left that although he would not interfere with his battle plans, he hoped that he could send the situation of the battlefield to the imperial court regularly. The two fellows quickly cupped their fists and said, "Yes, General Manager." Li Jing looked at the three generals in the tent and said, "Jijie, Shu Bao, Jinda, we originally planned to split into 3 groups to enter Zhengzhou tomorrow. However, the situation is urgent and the Chui family is hiding in Guanqing waiting for reinforcements. We have to merge our forces and move out immediately. We have to rush to Guanqing before the reinforcements of the Chui and Jing families arrive. This time, we will surround them and attack the reinforcements. We will wipe out all the hidden powers of these 3 families." "Good. Then I, Old Qing, will go clean up the army and set off immediately." Qing Yaojin was instantly energized and hollered loudly. Speaking of which, his horse Lance was already thirsty and could not take this chance to see some blood. Qin Xiong and Niu Jinda also cupped their fists and left. Half an hour later, all the tents were kept and the 60,000 troops were gathered. Then, they all held torches and started their rapid march. They traveled through the night and night to head straight for Guanqing. Chapter 1326. Late at night, the entire Chang'an city was asleep, but the Taiji Palace was still brightly lit. Li Er was looking at the sand table in front of him thoughtfully with his hands behind his back. Yes, it was a sand table. Ever since Li Zishuan created the Yanhuang College sand table last year, the sand table was finally used in war for the first time. "Reporting! Your Majesty, Prince Wei has something urgent to report." At this moment, a chamberlain rushed in and bowed. Li Er's eyes flashed. He turned around and said, "Let him in. In the future, there's no need to inform Qin when she comes to Ganlu Hall." "Understood." The eunuch cupped his hands and left. Not long after, Li Tai walked in with a letter. He raised the letter above his head and said, "Reporting to Imperial Father, the frontline army sent an urgent report. Imperial Father, please take a look." "Let me take a look." Li Er impatiently walked to Li Tai's side, took the report, and began to read it carefully. "Zhengzhou has a 300,000 army? Cui Junchuo, that old thing, probably conscripted all the youths in Zhengzhou, right? Fortunately, Duan Jishuan, Ren Kan, and Wang Yu arrived in time. Otherwise, Luoyang would be in danger." After a while, Li Er put down the report and whispered to himself. Li Tai stood at the side in silence. He had personally translated the telegram. Even if Li Er didn't say it, he knew the contents. "Qin, what do you think?" Li Er glanced at Li Tai, who was beside him, and asked. His son used to like to hang around him. Li Er knew why. It was nothing more than fighting for favor. However, ever since Li Tai went to Yanhuang College, this child was obsessed with strange things. He heard that the Prince Wei's residence had built a laboratory to fiddle with strange things. The little fatty who used to hang around him every day and call him "Father, Father," was gone. Every time he thought of this, Li Er felt gratified, but he couldn't help but feel a little lonely. "Imperial Father, this son doesn't dare to have any opinions on the matters of the country. This son believes that with Imperial Father's wisdom and martial prowess, a mere rebel army is like a grasshopper after autumn. They won't be able to survive for more than a few days. If Imperial Father has nothing else, then this subject will take his leave first. If there are any urgent reports from the front lines, this subject will report to Imperial Father again. Li Tai cupped his hands and said, from the day the army left the capital, he was asked for leave. He was asked by Li Er from Yanhuang College back to Chang and to be in charge of communications with the front line. He was quite interested in this, so he came back half-heartedly. However, what he was interested in was the first practical use of a new technology like the telegraph, not the situation at the front line. To put it bluntly, he was now a technical geek. All right then. Chinke, you've worked hard these days. Li Er saw that Li Tai's mind was not here, so he could only helplessly say, this son is not tired. Father, please rest early. This son will take his leave. Li Tai cupped his hands and took his leave. The three armies combined into one army, besieging the enemy and attacking reinforcements. The medicine master's actions are very much to my liking. I'd like to see how much power is hidden behind the three of you. After Li Tai left, Li Er lowered his head to look at the intelligence on the table and muttered to himself. Back then, he had indeed noticed the Chui family's disloyalty and had secretly made preparations. The reason why he did not nip the rebellion in the bud was mainly because he wanted to see how much power the Chui family had hidden in the dark, or how many people were willing to rebel with the Chui family. He wanted to cast a long line to catch a big fish. He wanted to take this opportunity to wipe out all the remnants of the aristocratic families in one fell swoop. Li Jing's strategy of besieging the enemy and attacking reinforcements was exactly what he wanted. However, after this battle, Zhengzhou is bound to lose a large number of young and strong laborers, and the people's livelihood will wither. I'm afraid it will be difficult to fully recover in the next 10 years. What should we do? A moment later, a hint of worry appeared on Li Er's face as he sighed softly. Reporting to the general, the head chief has ordered the Black Armored Army and 150,000 provincial government troops to strictly guard the city and guard against the reinforcements from the Zheng family and the Chui family from Bowling. The head chief is leading 3 armies to travel through the night and will arrive before nightfall. The next day, a messenger rode a fast horse to the Black Armored Army's tent in the south of Guangqing County. He cupped his fists and reported to Duan Jishuan. When Duan Jishuan heard this, he suddenly stood up and said, You said that the rebels in the city have reinforcements near Zhengzhou? Is the information accurate? Obviously, he also realized that if the Chui family's rebels were to form a pincer attack, it would be extremely disadvantageous for them. Reporting to the general, the head chief obtained the information from within Guangqing County, and it is extremely reliable. I hope the general can deal with it carefully, the messenger replied and then fainted immediately. He was really too tired after rushing all the way here on a fast horse. Quick! Someone come and help him to the tent to rest. Duan Jishuan hurriedly shouted outside the tent. Then, 2 soldiers came in and carried the messenger away. Duan Jishuan then ordered, Wu Feng, Zheng Chang, immediately send out scouts to scout along the south of Zhengzhou. If you find the enemy, come back immediately and report to me. Yes, sir. The 2 generals cupped their fists and immediately left. Duan Jishuan thought for a moment and followed them out of the tent. Someone, prepare the horses and follow me to the East Gate camp. Hiya! Hiya! Quick, quick, quick! Follow me! Everyone behind me! We must reach Guangqing County before nightfall. On the official road in the north of Shuzhou, an army of more than 10,000 people was galloping. The general in front was riding a war horse, and the soldiers behind were chasing after him. Hey! I heard that the 300,000 soldiers in Guangqing County were surrounded by 150,000 soldiers outside the city. If you ask me, that Chui Quan is really useless. If I were to lead the army, I would definitely kill the Imperial Army. Next to the army, there was a small group of people who were not wearing military armor. They were all holding strange weapons, and their appearance was even more unrestrained. They were dressed rather casually, as if they were not going to the battlefield, but rather to attend some grand event. They were the Jianghu experts that the Cui and Jing families had been keeping all these years. The rest of them were the secret guards of the Cui and Jing families. Who would have thought that the two families would hide their troops in Shuzhou, which was south of Zhengzhou? Hey, Iron Fist Wang, you are really shameless. I heard that the imperial court had sent the black armored army this time. With your mediocre skills, I don't think you can last more than 3 rounds with the black armored army. Another shifty-eyed man chuckled. Bah! Hua Xiaojian, if you say one more word, do you believe that I will cut off your manhood so that you can go and harm other people's maidens? Hey! What a joke! What a joke! Brother Iron Fist, don't mind me. In Guangxing County. Since yesterday, when the commoners knew that the army was outside the city, there were more and more people who were dissatisfied with the Cui family in private. But because the provincial governor's troops had not only strengthened the city's defense, they had also increased the patrols in the city. They had also caught a few groups of people who were spreading rumors, so the commoners did not dare to talk nonsense anymore. As the saying goes, if you do not explode in silence, you will perish in silence. Some things, the more oppressed, the more they would rebound. The longer the silence, the stronger the rebound would be. For example, the public opinion. A formless anger was brewing in Guangxing County. However, those who were still immersed in their dreams of killing their way out of Guangxing County did not feel this anger. Sigh. Now that the imperial court's army has surrounded Guangxing County, but the Cui family is still dreaming of dominating the city. It's fine if they are dreaming, but it has caused us, the commoners, to suffer. In a few more days, when the imperial court's reinforcements arrive, they will attack the city. And us, the new soldiers guarding the city gate, will definitely die. On the east side of Guangxing County, Lu Rengue looked at the densely packed military tents and sighed deeply. And behind him on his right, there was a soldier holding a javelin in his hand. When the guard heard this, his face twitched imperceptibly. However, due to his fear of the general in the camp, he did not say anything. Seeing Lu Rengue shake his head and turn to leave, he finally could not help but say, "Brother Ren, please wait. It's Captain Wang of the 6th Battalion. Just now you didn't hear anything, right?" Lu Rengue's face flashed with a trace of surprise, followed by fear. He carefully probed. That soldier shook his head and said, "The wind was strong just now, I didn't hear anything." Lu Rengue heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Oh, that's good. That's good. Captain Wang, why did you call me?" Actually, he had purposely said those words in front of this person. And this Captain Wang's background, he had already investigated clearly. His name was Wang Lang, the son of the Wang family village outside the city. A month ago, he was captured and used some unknown method to become the captain of the 9th Battalion's 6th Battalion. He was also quite popular among his subordinates. More importantly, the Wang family village outside the city had been bullied by the Cui family for many years. This was also the main reason why Lu Rengue dared to say those taboo words in front of Wang Lang. Come, Brother Ren, let's talk here." Wang Lang carefully pulled Lu Rengue to the corner of the city wall and asked softly, "Brother Ren, let's not beat around the bush. Just now you said that there will be reinforcements from the imperial court, and when the reinforcements arrive, they will attack the city, is that true? You don't have to worry, I will never tell anyone what you said to me. I, Wang Lang, swear to the heavens." Lu Rengue originally wanted to humbly decline a few more words to prevent this kid from getting suspicious, but after hearing Wang Lang's honesty, he simply said, "Brother Wang, since you said so, then I won't hide it from you. What I said just now was actually accidentally heard from our adjunct Wang." He also said that when the imperial court's army attacks the city, he will send us, the new soldiers, to our deaths. After a quarter of an hour, Lu Rengue returned to his position and continued to stand guard. How is it? Joining the army? Is it done? Old Feng asked sneakily. Hey, is there a need to ask? This should be the 12th one, right? It's almost enough. Chapter 13:27. Right now, the public opinion of Guangxing County was like a ticking time bomb. What Lu Rengue was doing right now was to collect these ticking time bombs and wait for a specific time to detonate them all at the same time, blowing up a crack in this impregnable city. Many things looked impenetrable from the outside, but from the inside, they might be easily broken. Reporting to the Grand General, the scouts at the front discovered a large number of troops and a group of unidentified Jianghu people at the junction of Zhengzhou and Shuzhou. They are rushing towards us. At 5 past noon, a soldier rushed in from the Black Armored Army's tent in the south of the city and reported to Duan Jishuan. At this time, 50,000 unidentified troops suddenly appeared. They must be the reinforcements of the Chui and Jin families. As for those Jianghu people, they might be the retainers of these two families in recent years. Did you see how many of them there are? How long will it take to reach Guangxing County? Duan Jishuan's expression changed as he stood up. Replying to the Grand General, the other party has about 50,000 people. According to their marching speed, they will reach Guangxing County around 5. Then when will the Grand General Manager and the rest arrive? Duan Jishuan's expression changed slightly as he thought about it and asked again. According to the latest intelligence, the Grand General Manager's army is more than 30 miles away from Guangxing County. They will probably reach Guangxing County around 5, but the soldier suddenly became hesitant at the end. Duan Jishuan frowned and said, "But what?" "But the Grand General Manager's army travels day and night. As far as I know, they only rested for less than 4 hours last night." The soldier cupped his fist and said. His meaning was obvious. He wanted to tell Duan Jishuan that even if the army led by Li Jing arrived, their combat power would probably be less than 10%. After all, they didn't really rest for a day and a night. Duan Jishuan's brows furrowed deeply. After pondering for a moment, he ordered, "Wu Feng, Jing Chang, the two of you go to the east and west camps respectively. Ask Ren Kan and Wang Yu to take 20,000 men each and go with me to stop the reinforcements of the Chui and Jing families. Then, Grand General, if the rebels in the city take the opportunity to escape from the south gate, what should we do?" The general to the left of Duan Jishuan cupped his fist and said, "I will only bring 1,000 black armored troops with me. The remaining 2,000 will be led by the two of you. If the Chui family intends to escape from the South City Gate, the 60,000 elites that you brought along with the head chief will be able to defeat them easily." Duan Jishuan said coldly. Wu Feng and Jing Chang looked at each other, and then they cupped their fists and said in unison, "Understood." Report the military situation here to the General Director while you're at it. In the end, Duan Jishuan instructed. Here. Reporting to the 3 great-grandpas, the 2 young masters have sent a letter saying that our reinforcements have arrived 40 miles outside the city. In another 4 hours we will reach the south of the city. Guangxing County, Provincial Governor's Office. A soldier carrying a piece of paper hurriedly ran in and bowed. The reinforcements of the Chui and Jing families this time were personally led by Chui Wenji and Jing Shuwa's eldest grandsons, Chui Shun and Jing Huaijie. The troops carried carrier pigeons so that they could send messages into the city at any time. This message was, of course, directed in one direction. Chui Shun and Jing Huaijie could use carrier pigeons to send messages into the city, but Chui Wenji and Jing Shuwu could not use carrier pigeons to send messages to Chui Shun and the rest. This was because the army was constantly on the move, and carrier pigeons would only return to the home in their memories. Compared to that, the superiority of telegraphic messages was obvious. Good. Good. When Shen-Er and the rest arrive with their reinforcements, we will fight our way out from the South City Gate. With a pincer attack, I don't believe that we can't fight our way out? Cui Wenji got up and laughed. Cui Junchuo hesitated and said, Brother Wenji, the army has been on the move for a whole day. Why don't we let them rest for a night and fight again tomorrow? Cui Wenji nodded and said, Junchuo is right. Look at my brain, I'm probably old and confused. Once I get excited, I forget everything. The army is fatigued from the journey, and should indeed rest for a night. In that case, we will attack again tomorrow. It's just that, how are we going to spread the news? When he said that, Cui Junchuo, Cui Wenji, and Jing Shuo were all in a dilemma. Previously, they had sealed the city so that Wei Zheng and Lu Rengue could not spread the news even if they wanted to. It was only after Li Yu came to manage the city that the situation changed. Now, Guangxing County was surrounded by the imperial court's army. Cui Junchuo and the rest finally experienced Wei Zheng and Lu Rengue's situation. For now, we can only wait for Huaijie and the rest to send another message and act according to their plan. If they choose to fight tonight, then we will go out of the city and fight. If they choose to rest for a night, then we will wait until tomorrow to lead the troops out of the city. After a long silence, Jing Shuo said helplessly, That's the only way. Reporting. Reporting to the chief steward, General Duan sent an urgent report. In the wilderness 30 miles west of Guangxing County, a huge army was advancing quickly. Suddenly, a knight in black armor came toward them. Li Jing quickly ordered the army to stop. The knight quickly got off his horse and cupped his fist. Read it. Li Jing said in a low voice. Reporting to the chief steward, General Duan found the reinforcements of the Cui and Jing families 40 miles south of Guangxing County, as well as the martial arts experts and death warriors that the two families have raised. General Duan took 20,000 soldiers from the east and west gates and brought 1,000 black armored soldiers to ambush them. General Duan said that the chief steward and the rest must be tired after traveling through the night. When the time comes, we only need to help in the south of the city to stop the rebels from escaping. The black armored soldier cupped his fists and said, Defense was always more energy efficient than taking the initiative to attack. Duan Zhishuan's arrangement was reasonable, and there was nothing wrong with it. Bastard! What does Duan Zhishuan mean? What do you mean by tired? He is looking down on us old generals. Motherf ***, you want to steal old Cheng's credit? Impossible. Chief Steward, I request for an order to bring 1,000 elites to stop the reinforcements of the Cui and Jing families. When Cheng Yaojin heard this, he was instantly furious. He cupped his fists at Li Jing and said angrily, Jijie, don't be rash. General Duan is right, the army has traveled for a day and night, the men and horses are tired. Qinxiong pulled Cheng Yaojin and stopped him. Li Jing frowned and did not say anything. After a while, he stretched out his hand and said, Give me the map. Yes. A soldier at the side quickly handed over the map. Li Jing opened it and pointed at a location on the map. He said to Cheng Yaojin, Qinxiong and Niu Jinda, The reinforcements of the Cui and Jing families should be around Mi County, and they are less than 30 miles away from us. Since they are the last trump card of the Cui and Jing families, their fighting strength cannot be underestimated. Furthermore, there are many martial arts experts and death warriors. I'm worried that Duan Zhishuan's men are not their match. Jijie, you bring 5,000 elites and support Duan Zhishuan. When the time comes, you will act according to the situation. After I stabilize the defense line at the 3 gates of Guangxing County, I will bring people to support you. Cheng Yaojin laughed when he heard this. Haha. Good. Don't worry, head chief, I, old Cheng, will kill all the rebels. Qinxiong said anxiously, "Manager, it's easy for Jijie to take risks. I will go with him. Guangxing County has you and Jindao, so there shouldn't be any accidents." When Cheng Yaojin heard that, his face fell. However, Qinxiong was talking about him, so he did not dare to talk back. Li Jing thought about it and said, "That's great." A moment later, Qinxiong and Cheng Yaojin chose 5,000 elites from the 60,000 army and rushed towards Mi County. "We will be able to see Guangxing County in an hour. Huaijie, should we find a secluded place outside the city to rest for the night or launch an attack directly?" On the road north of Mi County, the reinforcements of the Cui and Jing families were rushing. Cui Shen, who was at the front, opened his mouth. Zheng Huaijie rubbed his thighs that were almost scraped open. He had always been a spoiled brat, so he had never suffered so much. If it weren't for the Jing family's crisis, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to come here personally. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "Why don't we launch the attack tomorrow? The soldiers have walked for a day and should be tired." Cui Shen nodded and said, "That's good. I will send someone to send a message to grandfather." The army continued to move forward. At this moment, there was a mountain path in front of them. The mountain path was not very narrow and could allow 4 horses to walk side by side. The hills on both sides were not very steep and there was a dense forest growing on the hills. "Young master, please tell the army to be on high alert and be careful of an ambush." An old man beside Cui Shen, Wang Taisho, who had said that he would lead the army to kill the black armored army, came to Cui Shen's side and said solemnly. Cui Shen frowned. "Ambush? At this time they will ambush me. Kung, kung, kung. Kill." Before Cui Shen could finish his sentence, countless soldiers suddenly rushed down from the hills on both sides. They held mo swords in their hands and charged toward the Cui and Jing armies with an indomitable will. "Ambush! Draw your swords and fight. Remember to maintain the formation," Wang Taisho shouted. Then, he and a few other experts surrounded Cui Shen and Jing Huaijie in the middle to protect them. The two armies soon engaged in battle. As they did not know where the enemy came from and whether they would have any reinforcements, Cui Shen and Jing Huaijie ordered the army to advance as they fought. They planned to get out of this mountain path first and get rid of the terrain that was disadvantageous to them. Soon they saw the mountain path. Once they got out of this mountain path, there would be a vast plain in front of them. At that time, they would be able to fight the enemy head-on. Bang bang bang! Just as Cui Shen and his army were about to get out of the mountain path, everyone suddenly felt the ground tremble. Then, a group of black armored cavalry appeared on the plain outside the mountain path. They were emitting a strong and cold murderous aura, like a group of death knights from hell. "Black armored army? Young master, it's the black armored army. But why are the black armored troops here?" Wang Taisho said with a face full of fear. Chapter 1328. 2 in 1 chapter. Black armored troops. Isn't the black armored troops stationed outside of Guangxing County? Why are they here? When Cui Shen and Zheng Huaijie heard that the enemy was the black armored troops, their faces turned green with fear. The black armored troops were known for their unparalleled combat prowess. The two of them had never been on the battlefield before, but this was their first encounter with the black armored troop. How could they not be terrified? "Young masters, there is no need to worry. The black armored troops only have about 1,000 men. Let the experts from the Hall of Worship and the men of sacrifice from the Kamikaze Battalion meet them. As for the troops on both sides of the mountain path, let the Shadow Guards deal with them. If we can take down 1,000 black armored troops, the south side of Guangxing County will be defenseless. At that time, we will have a better chance of rescuing old grandfather and the rest." Taizhou Wang was also panicking at the start. However, when he saw the number of black armored troops, he calmed down and tried to persuade them. Hall of Worship Wang is right. Let's do as he says. At this moment, Cui Shun and Jing Huijie were in a state of being out of their wits. Iron Hand Wang's words were like a life-saving straw, letting them see some hope, so they desperately climbed up this life-saving straw. Yes, young master. Taizhou Wang clasped his hands and shouted, "Brothers from the Hall of Worship and the men of sacrifice, follow me to meet the black armored troops." Yes. Following a chorus of voices, hundreds of Jianghu people dressed in various colors rushed out from the army. Together with 3,000 to 4,000 warriors dressed in black, they charged straight at the black armored troops. "You are courting death. Listen to my command, charge with me." Duan Jishuan saw that the opposing army dared to take the initiative to meet the black armored troops head-on. He roared angrily and urged his horse forward. With a lance in one hand, he charged forward at an even faster speed. "Kill!" 1,000 black armored troops roared in unison and charged forward. The war horses neighed and their shouts shook the heavens. The Hall of Worship and the men of sacrifice from the Cui and Jing families felt that it was not 1,000 men charging at them, but tens of thousands of ferocious beasts. This was the unparalleled black armored troops. After so many years of training, the black armored troops of today was much better than the black armored troops of Li World. Bang bang bang! Duan Jishuan's warhorse sent countless soldiers from the Cui and Jing families flying. Wang Taizhou panicked when he saw this. He said to the two people beside him, "Chu Xiaofeng, Hua Xiajian, you two come with me to deal with Duan Jishuan." Iron Fist Wang, you're sending us to our deaths. I'm not going." Hua Xiajian mocked as he swung his sword to block the black armored troops around him. Wang Taizhou panicked and shouted angrily, "Hua Xiajian, can you be a little more mature? With us 3 great grandmasters working together, would we still be afraid of a single Duan Jishuan? If we don't capture him first, our formation will be disrupted by him alone. At that time, no one will be able to survive." All right then. Hua Xiajian's expression changed. Moments later, he sent a flying kick towards one of the black armored troops who was about to attack him. He then turned his head towards Wang Taizhou and snorted angrily. "Duan Jishuan, your opponents are the 3 of us." Just as Duan Jishuan was killing as if he was invincible, suddenly 3 masters wielding swords and sabers came flying towards him. 3 martial Dao grandmasters. The Cui and Jing families are really generous. Duan Jishuan frowned. He felt that this was going to be tricky. He had only just entered the martial Dao grandmaster realm a few years ago. He could fight and kill enemies, but in a one-on-one fight, he was definitely no match for these 3 grandmasters. However, with the enemy before him, even if he could not win, he had to fight. Duan Jishuan slapped his horse's back and soared into the sky, dodging the fatal blows from 2 grandmasters. Then, he used his lance to stab the 3rd grandmaster, Wang Tieshou's chest. His speed was as fast as lightning, and so was the situation on the battlefield. Previously, it was 3 against 1, but in the blink of an eye, one of the 3 was about to be killed. Duan Jishuan had been on the battlefield for many years. Unlike these Jianghu ruffians, he paid the most attention to killing efficiency. His moves looked simple, but often, the simplest move was the fiercest killing move. His lance moved forward without hesitation. Wang Taizhou was in the air and had no time to dodge. "Duan Jishuan, how dare you!" At the moment of life and death, Wang Taizhou roared. His hair moved without wind. He channeled his strength into his sword and swung it to block this sure-kill lance. Clang! There was a sharp sound of metal clashing as the sword and lance clashed together. But at this moment there was a cracking sound. What shocked Wang Taizhou was that the long sword that he had always regarded as a treasure actually had a crack on it. Duan Jishuan sneered. To think that ordinary iron would dare to block this general's lance. Go to hell. With a crack, the long sword in Wang Tiesho's hand suddenly split into two halves. Duan Jishuan's lance continued to stab at Wang Tiesho's chest. "Humph! Duan Jishuan, it's not that easy to kill me," Wang Taizhou growled. Then, he did something that made everyone speechless. He actually used both hands to grab Duan Jishuan's lance. Clang! Just when the onlookers thought that there would be the sound of a sharp blade piercing into flesh, there was a sound of metal clashing on the horse lance. Duan Jishuan's horse lance was actually blocked by Iron Hand Wang with his bare hands. Heh! Duan Jishuan, now you know why the Jianghu people call me Taizhou, right? What are you two still standing there for? Hurry up and attack! Wang Taizhou sneered and shouted at Hua Xiaojian and Chu Xiaofeng. Master Wang, we're here to help you. As long as we kill Duan Jishuan today, the three of us will be famous all over the world. Ha! Chu Xiaofeng laughed and slashed with his sword. Hua Xiaojian was not willing to be left behind. He also hurried over to help. Duan Jishuan frowned. He wanted to injure one of the grandmasters when they were not prepared. Then, he would go and stall for time with the other two grandmasters. After all, the grandmasters were too powerful. If he did not hold them back and let them kill him, the black armored army might lose a few hundred men. But now that his sneak attack did not work, the enemy must be prepared. He would have to face the pressure of the three grandmasters head-on. It was no different from suicide. Half an hour ago. Guangqing County, Provincial Governor's Mansion. Reporting to the two grandmasters, a portion of the soldiers from the three directions outside the city have been transferred to the south of Guangqing County. A provincial government soldier hurriedly ran into the main hall of the provincial governor's office and reported. What? To the south of Guangqing County? Isn't that where our reinforcements are? Cui Wenji stood up and said. Pan Jinhua thought for a while and said, Grandmasters, could it be that they have discovered the traces of our reinforcements and sent their soldiers to stop them from reaching Guangqing County? Jing Shua nodded and said, Yes, it's very likely. Duan Jishuan's scouts are the best in the world. It shouldn't be difficult for them to discover that our reinforcements are from Shuzhou. Cui Junchua looked at the soldier and asked, Let me ask you, how many soldiers have been transferred to the east, west, and south gates? The messenger cupped his fists and replied, In reply to Taigong, I can't see the exact number. However, about 20 to 30,000 soldiers have been deployed from the east and west gate. As for the south gate, it seems that more than 1,000 black armored soldiers have been deployed there. Cui Junchuo's eyes lit up and said, More than 1,000? That means there are only about 2,000 black armored army left at the south gate? Wenji Shuwu, the east and west gates are still there. But there are only about 2,000 black armored army left at the south gate. Although the black armored army's combat power is unparalleled, they won't be able to withstand the combined attack of 300,000 soldiers. We will concentrate on breaking through the south gate and then rendezvous with the reinforcements brought by Shen'er and Huai Jie. Cui Wenji thought for a while and saw Jing Shua nodding. He replied, All right. We will transfer most of the soldiers and break through the south gate. If the other two gates send reinforcements to the south gate, we will lead the rest of the soldiers to escape from the east and west gates. He was indeed an old fox. This was what it meant to attack in the east and attack in the west. Cui Junchuo nodded and said, That's the best. Jinyue, Cui Quan, go and make the arrangements quickly. Half an hour later, the south gate of Guangqing County opened. Cui Quan led 150,000 soldiers and the guards stationed at the south gate and charged towards the 2,000 black armored army outside the city. Soldiers, we are the black armored army. We will win. Kill! Duan Jishuan's lieutenant, Wu Feng, roared and led the black armored army to charge forward. Pay attention to the formation, don't fall behind. Duan Jishuan's other lieutenant, Zheng Chang, shouted from behind. Reporting. Lord Pacifier, The rebel army has found out that the south gate is empty. Chui Quan led 100,000 soldiers and charged out from the south gate. I don't think the black armored army can hold on for much longer. East City Gate, Central Army Tent. The messenger hurriedly ran in and bowed to Ren Kan. What? The rebel army has left the city? Ren Kan was shocked and immediately became anxious. He said, "There are only 2,000 black armored troops at the south gate. Although the black armored troops have unparalleled battle prowess, how can they fight against the hundreds of thousands of rebels in the city? Men, quickly, gather the soldiers and reinforce the black armored army." "Lord Pacifier, you can't do that. You can't do that." A middle-aged officer to the left of Ren Kan hurriedly stood up to stop him. "Chui Junchuo has only mobilized a few 100,000 soldiers this time. The other few 100,000 soldiers are obviously still waiting for an opportunity to make their move. Once we send too many people to the south gate, the main force of the rebels will definitely escape from the east gate. At that time, the ones who let Chui Junchuo and Pan Jinyue go will be us. Lord Pacifier, please think twice before you act." Ren Kan frowned and said coldly, "Captain Meng, in your opinion, should we stay put and watch as the black armored army is annihilated and the Chui family escapes from the south gate? You must know that the black armored army is the army that His Majesty values the most. If His Majesty finds out that we watched the black armored army being destroyed without doing anything, then our sins will be even greater." Captain Meng was speechless. He clasped his fist and said, "Lord Pacifier, Lord Pacifier. Pacifier, there are currently 55,000 soldiers guarding the east and west city gates. We can only deploy 5,000 soldiers each to reinforce the black armored troop. This way we won't weaken the defense of the east and west city gates by much. Moreover, with 2,000 black armored troops and 10,000 prefecture soldiers, even if we lose, we won't lose so quickly. Now, we just have to see if Butler Lee's army can arrive before the 2,000 black armored army is completely defeated. Other than that, we have no other choice." Ren Kan's brows furrowed. He lowered his head and fell into deep thought. After a while, he raised his head and said, "Captain Meng, immediately take 5,000 elite soldiers and go to the south gate to support the black armored troops. Also, send someone to the west gate to inform Wang Yu." "Yes, Lord." The middle-aged general replied loudly and left the tent. At the south gate, the two armies were engaged in a fierce battle. The black armored army lived up to their reputation as the heavy armored cavalry. Even in the face of hundreds of thousands of enemy soldiers, they were not completely defeated. The 2,000 black armored army formed a long snake formation. With their strong charging force and armor, they charged through the rebel army several times. Chui Quan's army of hundreds of thousands had already lost at least 20,000 soldiers. Most of them were killed by the fully armored horses. However, the black armored army had also paid a heavy price. After a few charges, they had lost more than 300 soldiers. This made Wu Feng and Jing Chang's hearts ache. Those who were able to join the black armored army were all elite soldiers who could fight against 100 soldiers. "Set up your formation and surround the black armored army." Chui Quan roared, and the remaining 100,000 soldiers, under the command of their respective captains, formed an encirclement and surrounded the black armored troops. Without an open space, the black armored army could not charge forward. They were like caged beasts. Kill. From all directions, the rebel soldiers wielded long spears and charged towards the black armored troops. Without their advantage in speed, the black armored army could only raise their swords to defend themselves. But as the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Under such a dense encirclement, many of the black armored army were dismounted. Bang! 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 Kill! Suddenly 2 armies of thousands of soldiers appeared from the east and west. The rebel army panicked. Wu Feng made a prompt decision and shouted, "Charge out from the east! Kill!" Soon, the eastern side of the rebel army's encirclement was attacked from both inside and outside. It did not take long for a gap to be torn open. The black armored army was finally able to charge forward again. Together with the 10,000 soldiers, they started to fight the rebel army again. However, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers that Chui Quan brought with him were not just a motley crew. There were also 20,000 Chui families, shadow guards. Coupled with the fact that there were so many of them, the black armored army and the 10,000 soldiers from the provincial government showed signs of defeat. Hee. Looks like we've won. We can leave Guan City from the south gate now. On the city gate tower, Chui Junchuo heaved a long sigh of relief after she saw the situation of the battle below. Bang! 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 Soldiers, follow me! We're going to save the black armored army! Just when Chui Junchuo thought that the situation was settled, a black mass of soldiers suddenly rushed out from the wilderness to the west. The leader was a large number of people holding long lances, riding horses and galloping towards them. Niu Jinda? Li Jing? How is that possible? Chapter 1329. Chui Junchuo, Chui Wenji, Jing Shuwu, Pan Jinyue, and the rest were devastated when they saw Li Jing and Niu Jinda leading at least 60,000 soldiers to the south gate. Just a moment ago, they were still overjoyed that they had won the battle and could finally break out of the encirclement. However, the army led by Li Jing and Niu Jinda had extinguished the flames of hope in their hearts. The 2,000 black armored troops and 10,000 prefecture soldiers had already caused them such heavy losses. Now that the Tang military god was leading 60,000 soldiers, how were they supposed to fight back? In terms of reputation, Li Jing was much more powerful than the black armored troop. The Tang military god had never lost a single battle since his debut. Chui Quan was also a little dumbfounded at this moment. He looked at the tanned and thin veteran who called himself Old Niu and was shocked. Could this be Langyi County's Old Niu Jinda? Then, wouldn't the army he brought be the elites from the capital? Who would be able to withstand this? Reinforcements are here. Generals, listen up. Follow me and kill. Kill every last one of them. Wu Feng was overjoyed when he saw the army coming from the west. He shouted loudly, "Kill! Kill! Kill!" Hearing that the reinforcements were here, the black armored troops' morale was boosted, and they charged even more fiercely at the rebels. At this moment, Niu Jinda had already led his soldiers over. As soon as they came into contact, 4 to 5 rebels were sent flying by him. Then, he swung his sword left and right, and more than a dozen soldiers were killed by his sword in an instant. He was unparalleled in bravery. Roar! Kill! 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 Although the army behind Niu Jinda had been traveling for a day and a night, and their bodies were extremely tired, they still couldn't help but feel their blood boil when they saw this scene. Their bodies were instantly filled with a primordial energy, and they forgot all their fatigue and launched a fearless charge. To Chui Quan, the current situation on the battlefield could be said to have taken a sudden turn for the worse. Very soon, his army of over 100,000 was scattered and utterly defeated. Beat the gongs to retreat. Quick! Beat the gongs to retreat. Order everyone to return to the city immediately. Chui Junchuo, who was watching the battle from the city gate tower, hurriedly ordered. Chui Wenji and Jing Shuo looked at each other, shook their heads, and said nothing. Obviously, they also thought that Chui Quan's men couldn't defeat Li Jing's men. Yes. A soldier rushed out hurriedly. Clang, clang, clang. Not long after, a sound similar to the sound of a gong sounded from the city gate tower. It was written in Sun's Han army, Sun Zi's Han army, advance at the sound of the drum, sound, sound, retreat. East, west, north, 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 east, 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 west, north, 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 and central, central. Because technology was west-west in west-west, yong, west-west, west-west-west-west, sun-west. When the Sunday were. When Sun, Li heard the after Wang heard the Sun, army and Sun and Wang sounded, Sun heard of the retreat. Yayan retreat. Soon. Wait. Phone. When this heard the sound of the this to the when twos to s. He didn't have the courage to fight against a famous general of the great Tang like Niu Jinda, much less win. If he could retreat, he would do so with all his might. Commandant, why do you want our 2 battalions to bring up the rear? A young general roared unwillingly. Commandant Song, this is an order. Cui Quan looked at the young general coldly and said, the rest of the soldiers, listen to my order. Retreat. Retreat into the city. After saying that, he turned his horse around and took the lead to escape. The remaining 100,000 rebels hurriedly followed behind Cui Quan and ran toward the city gate. Although the thousands of soldiers in the 13th and 14th battalions were unwilling, they could only stay behind to stop the imperial court's army. The rebels on the battlefield were getting fewer and fewer. Not long after, only these 2 battalions were left. Just as the commandants of these 2 battalions were about to bring their troops back to the city, they saw that the wooden bridge over the moat had been put away, and the city gate was gradually closing. Cui Quan, you'll die a horrible death. When Commandant Song saw this, he knew that his 2,000 men had been abandoned. He immediately let out an indignant roar. At this moment, Niu Jinda had already surrounded the 2,000 men with his army. He said coldly, put down your weapons and surrender immediately. Then, I might spare your lives. Thank you, General Niu. We surrender. We surrender. Hearing this, the rebels put down their weapons without hesitation. Since Cui Quan was using them as cannon fodder, what was there to hesitate about? Take them away. Niu Jinda waved his hand, and the soldiers took the captives away. At this moment, Niu Jinda looked at Cui Junchuo and the others on the city gate tower and shouted, Cui Junchuo, you've committed treason and disregarded the imperial court's favor. I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll die without a complete corpse. Cui Junchuo was disheartened. Li Jing and Niu Jinda's appearance made him lose all hope of winning. However, things had already come to this. If he retreated, he would die. If he advanced, he would also die. There was no turning back. Niu Jinda, it's impossible for me, Cui Junchuo, to surrender. There are still 200,000 men in the city. If you and Li Jing want to attack the city, then come at me. Cui Junchuo's eyes flashed with viciousness. Even if there was no chance of winning, he would drag the entire city down with him. Humph. Old bastard, you really don't know what's good for you. Niu Jinda said angrily. Alright, Jinda, quickly clean up the battlefield. Then, bring the rest of the black armored troops to support Shu Bao and Ji Jie. Leave this to me. At this moment, Li Jing walked up and patted Niu Jinda on the shoulder before speaking softly. Okay. I'll do it now. Niu Jinda was shocked. Only then did he remember that there were still 2 armies fighting in the south. He cupped his fists in response and quickly went to find the black armored troops. In the southern suburbs of Guangxing County, the 50,000 shadow guards from the Cui and Jing families and the 40,000 soldiers from Duan Jishuan had suffered heavy casualties. However, the shadow guards from the Cui and Jing families still had the upper hand. As for Duan Jishuan's black armored troops, the Cui and Jing families' hall of worship and camp of sacrifice, the situation was even more one-sided. More than half of the black armored troops were either dead or injured. As for Duan Jishuan himself, he was severely injured. His light armor was stained with blood from both the enemy and himself. It could be said that if the battle continued like this, the people that Duan Jishuan had brought with him would be completely annihilated. So what if the black armored troops were brave and powerful? The hall of worship of the Chui and Jing families were all elite fighters. As for the camp of sacrifice, they were all assassins who were not afraid of death. In terms of combat power, the black armored troops were not that strong. Moreover, the enemy outnumbered them by a few times. Hey, black armored troops? Didn't you say that 3,000 black armored troops could defeat 100,000 soldiers? Why is the general of the black armored troops so weak? Wang Taizhou threw a punch at Duan Jishuan and sent him crashing to the ground. This man did not know the saying that all villains die because they talk too much. So, he wanted to mock them and show off his strength. Duan Jishuan supported himself with his lance and stood up unsteadily. He looked at Wang Taizhou and said coldly, "The black armored troops' reputation is not for trash like you to judge. Let's see how long you can be so arrogant when my reinforcements arrive." Haha, reinforcements? If you have reinforcements, why are they taking so long? Why don't you call for your reinforcements to come quickly? Wang Taizhou sneered. In this battle, although it was 3 evolved Jing masters against 1, all 3 of them were injured. At this time, he had a stomach full of anger. Now that he had beaten Duan Xuanji to the ground with great difficulty, of course he wanted to show off his prestige as the victor. Bang! 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 Suddenly, a series of hurried footsteps came from outside the mountain. Wang Taizhou, Cui Shen, Zheng Huaijie, and the rest were shocked. Oh no! Their reinforcements are here! Cui Shen said in a panic. How dare the remnants of the noble families resist the imperial army? Soldiers, charge with me, old Cheng. Kill every last one of them. Qing Yaojin held a lance in his hand and took the lead to rush over. Kill, kill, kill. The 5,000 elites that Qing Yaojin and Qin Xiong had brought with them also charged forward. Damn it! They really have reinforcements. Then you can go to hell first. Wang Tieshou's face darkened. He cursed himself for saying such a thing. He used his leg to pick up a saber beside a dead soldier and slashed it at Duan Jishuan's neck with one hand. How dare you, old man! At the crucial moment, Qing Yaojin roared and threw out the stallion in his hand. His target was Iron Hand Wang. Wang Taizhou did not dare to take it head-on. He quickly dodged, and the lance stabbed into the ground. It was obvious how powerful Qing Yaojin's attack was. Whoosh! In just a short while, Qing Yaojin and Qin Xiong had arrived and stood in front of Duan Jishuan. General Duan, take care of yourself. Leave these 3 to me and Jijia. Qin Xiong looked at Duan Jishuan and said. Duan Jishuan clasped his fist and said, "Thank you, General Qin. Thank you, General Cheng." Qing Yaojin laughed. Hey, little Duan, next time you encounter something like this, don't force yourself. You're a good fighter. If you die in the hands of these idiots, it won't be worth it. Duan Jishuan was immediately choked by this shameless old man. Alright, Jijia. Focus on the enemy first. Qin Xiong pulled out his sword and looked at the 3 grandmasters in front of him. Alright. Haha. Today I can finally show my skills. The 3 of you, old men, come at me together. Qing Yaojin picked up the lance that was inserted into the ground and laughed loudly. Qin Xiong? Qing Yaojin? Wang Taizhou, Chu Xiaofeng, and Hua Xiaojian's pupils shrank. Their faces were filled with shock. Hey! Cut the crap! Today, none of you can leave. Qing Yaojin did not waste any more time. He shouted and charged forward with his lance. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.